Hello everyone and welcome to a live FaceHAMMER.
Hello there.
Thanks everyone for joining us. I do like that comment. Is Nagash got a new toy? And then from Quiet Woods and then Rob Hall is Nagash's new toy, the bin. Just don't hold back. Don't hold back, guys.
Russ has changed studios, still has Nagash on the wall. We'll see whether he deserves to be on the wall or not.
He can stay on the wall, he just might not go on the table. So, hi everyone, thanks for joining us. It's 21st of December, and today Battlescroll, whatever that is, has been launched, which seems like that's the new name for the winter update. Yes, I do have a new room. I'm in my studio, so still work in progress. Yeah, so we're going to talk about it because it impacts match play and the meta, and things have changed, but I don't think it's quite as impactful as people probably think. But
no, or would hope.
No.
Mr. Maudsley.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd talk about it. So obviously, like Battlescroll, it's on the Warhammer community website. You can see it if you go onto the site, and there's some blurb about everything. But really, it's this download which gives you this nice, it's quite handy actually, because normally you just have to read through the FAQs and spot the changes.
Yeah. I like the Cliff Notes. I like the Cliff Notes version.
It's good. It's a helpful reference as well. Like if you're at an event or something, just to have it tucked in your battle tome. Sorry, I am drinking, everyone. It's that kind of day today. So
that's prophetic. Guess what's coming up?
Yes. So obviously, we'll just get into the changes. We'll talk about what they are. You've probably already read them, but we'll talk about it. So sort of the generic changes is heroic action, so heroic recovery. So the main change here is that you can't do this if you're within 3 inches of another hero, and also they've got rid of this equal you only get 1 and less than you get D3. It's just less than or equal. So it's basically pass an old school leadership test, get D3 wins, but you can't do it if you're next to someone fighting, which kind of makes sense, I guess. And it kind of reins in the heroes being heroic and
the
healing.
Indestructibility of them, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly. Which it's okay. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make, but it might make a difference to stuff that wants to be in combat and heal, like some of the Nurgle stuff we talked about on the show. But obviously they've got their innate healing, so they kind of get a buff in a way that isn't a buff.
Yeah, well, it doesn't feel, to me at least, like everyone in the game should be able to heal willy-nilly while standing next to someone. So I quite like that. I think that's quite a concise change that makes a lot of sense in all regards. I can't really see a negative to it.
I did joke during play testing when I played against Brian's Chaos Knights that they seemed to be healing better than my undead army was. So I was like, yes, this doesn't feel very thematic for me.
No, not quite. Nurgle should be able to heal, but perhaps a load of
but he was running
non-magical.
He was running Slaves to Darkness, so non-Nurgle. So it was it was the Chaos Knights getting 3 models back out of 10. Was not ideal. But anyway, so obviously Unleash Hell has been changed. Basically the range has been reduced from 9 to 6.
Good.
Yeah, I guess. Does it make any difference?
Well, I think if you're trying to set up something with a unit behind another unit and this unit being safe or not, like it's not like this unit's miles back now and still getting to plow a load of damage in. So for people who are like deploying Roman formations on the table or whatever, I think they have to think about it a bit more now. So
yeah, I think you have to play a little bit better to set up an Unleash Hell rather than it just being in
you
range.
Don't get it accidentally.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think there's much. I don't know. It almost feels like it's a nerf to Cruel Boys, and they really don't need it. Because I think it hurts them a lot.
Yeah.
Because you've got the list where you use the Volker to do 2 unleash hells and stuff like that, but it kind of makes you a lot more
that's going to
tight.
be
So
logistically
it's
harder now.
yeah. But then again, like I think some of the things that unleash hell's really egregious on, like dragons and fulminates stuff like that, doesn't really matter because they're going to be like being charged anyway.
Well, Alex Edwards, it's a big change. It's models within 6. It's so much easier to get the nose of 2 dragons in than it. I think whenever you're going to introduce I quite like these.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
models.
Yeah, that's the important choice.
Whenever you're gonna introduce a game-wide change like this, some units are going to be hit more than others. Yeah, thank you very much for clarifying that, Alex. I should have.
You can tell I don't play shooting armies, can't you? So, yeah. I mean, it is definitely a
doesn't
nerf.
Hit monsters as much. It is, but it's just not a nerf. I guess it's a nerf to Sentinels.
Yeah, and blood stalkers or sisters. I always get those mixed up. So
yeah, and both of those are pretty strong in the game currently. So
yeah,
it's nice that they've been reined back. No one's going to be upset about Sentinels being able to stand with impunity at the back and kill people.
I should zoom this in a bit
nice.
More. Yeah, so the other change is the Amulet of Destiny to a 6-up ward, which I really like that.
Fine.
Because it was just such a no-brainer.
Yeah. Ideally, you'd like it somewhere between 5 and 6+, but that's not doable. I feel it would be right at like
5.5. Like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't. If you imagine having to do that admin though, like every 5 up you re-roll it, and on a 4+.
Oh yeah, no, there's no practical way to.
It'd be like, spring back 2d6 saves. That was a thing in 40k, right? Back in the old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the change that heroic recovery is only D3 now. There's no like, oh yeah, that's on my bravery, and that's only 1, or it's 3 at D3, which you'll roll 1 anyway. So it's like
it's such a pointless. Get 1 bonus from the update.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry, Goblin players.
Sorry. Yeah, I did have someone tweet us and say like, "What are you going to do about these?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like, it's not really up to me." Sorry. Yeah.
We'll come on to things that can't be fixed.
Amulet of Destiny change is a big impact to Gargants, which is I think needed. There isn't, to be honest, it isn't a lot to hurt Gargants in here, but I think the problem with Gargants that it's like they're on a knife edge of becoming mid-table trash, or being they're so hard to balance because there is no like width in that. But there's no width in that battle tome, so like if anything gets adjusted, it just falls over. So it's a really hard one to. It's a bit like Knights in 40k. It's the same problem, right? They're either too good or they're no good. It's like this to get it right. It's very difficult. So, and I think personally, like one of the things about Gargants that I'm not a massive fan of is, sure, they're beatable if you've got like a decent top tier army or an army that's their foil. You've got Gotrek, so like there's stuff in the game that they can't deal with, but there's a lot of armies that just can't do the damage check, or a little bit of bad luck means you don't do the damage and it costs you the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's almost like I almost feels like when I play a Gargant player, they put their men in a blob, and then it's up to you to either roll badly or have a little bit of luck go against you and you lose. And it's like they're not really winning the game, you're losing the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're brainless, but I think the skill curve's very flat with Gargants. So I don't think there's much improvement in skill. It's like a small band, whereas Luminef's like quite a big band.
Your first 10 games or whatever.
If I'm articulating that well, I don't know, but I'm going to get loads of heat now. Like, I play Gargants, you're calling me smooth-brained. I'm like, yeah, deal with it. So, Order seem to have got a little buff here. So, Sylvaneth and...
I mean, Order do need a buff.
Daughters of Cain. Order, yeah. Just play Order. Sylvaneth and Marathi. So basically, Marathi and Alariel both get access to their spell lore, which I kind of like, honestly.
It makes sense.
But it's quite a big buff to Marathi, particularly as she can like cast.
Wasn't bad anyway, was she?
Whilst the just Shadow Queen's running around and doing its snaky thing. And she's pretty good at casting, so nice bonus. I guess it kind of makes sense. Yeah. We'll get on the war scrolls in a minute as well. So like destruction, obviously the big news in destruction is Kragnos, which we will get to.
Yep.
Which basically that's what it says. It says Kragnos. Destruction is Kragnos, so he's got buffed significantly, and points I think are the same. So pretty nice if you're a destruction player or an order player, because you kind of got away with it, really. Obviously, we'll talk about the points adjustments as well. So, Grand Alliance Chaos. So this is quite a big change here, which I don't know. It probably doesn't affect Sinnes as much as the other factions, because you already had the Head Knight keyword stuff anyway. But essentially, Archaon's changed, so he doesn't get any allegiance abilities except when he's in slaves. So, and a lot of the rules, the battle tomes have been updated to say replace Khorne with Blades of Khorne, replace Tzeentch with Disciples of Tzeentch, replace Nurgle with Maggotkin of Nurgle. You know, I mean, that's already done because it's got a new book, but you get the idea. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
how do you
like?
I
I kind of like it because I don't like how entangled Chaos is, but at the same time, Chaos Warriors
Archaon.
are so unique that I really don't like the fact that like a Nurgle Chaos Warrior, a Slaanesh Chaos Warrior, or a Khorne Chaos Warrior doesn't feel like they're part of the Khorne army when they clearly should be.
Yeah, I feel like it feels like a fix for something at the, not at the root of the issue potentially, but I
No.
get why that would, you
I know-
can't rewrite 4 books.
I know you could say you've got Blood Warriors. You know, Blood Warriors are kind of like Khorne Chaos Warriors, but they're not really.
Yeah,
I know they kind of are, but then not every faction's got those. I know that Slaanesh got them, but the Nurgle didn't get like their equivalent of a normal Chaos
we'll
Warrior.
touch
They got Blight Kings,
we'll
but
touch
they're
on
more
Slaneshes later anyway.
elite, right? So, I mean, the big thing with Archaon is like Andrew's just touched on it, is you can't use like Destiny dice, which obviously is a big impact
Yeah.
to that really competitive
Huge.
Tzeentch army. I like the
Is
fact
he an
that
issue in the others though?
to be honest, I think it's cleaner. Like, because the problem you've got
Yeah.
is if you've got 5 books, because what you've got to think about, these books come out spread out, and there's a lag
But-
from when they're developed and when they're tested to when they're released, which everyone forgets.
The closest possible all of those could come out would be like, I don't know, within 2.5 years of each other, best case scenario, not including design cycles. So
Yeah,
you're asking people to balance 4 years into the future,
and
which I get why that's hard.
I think as well it handcuffs you creatively with the rules, because you've always got to think, what about Archaon? What about
Yeah.
what about this? What about that? So what about Chaos Warriors? What about Chaos Sorcery? What about Coalition? So you've got to. I think that I've always been more of a proponent of staying in the battle tome, as you know. So I kind of like that they're going down that route and more specializing and diversifying the Chaos faction, because when it's a bin bag of chaos, I don't really like it. And I like slaves standing on their own 2 feet and saying, well, it's a slaves army, not a Tzeentch army with slaves models, or vice versa. So it's a bit of a strange one, but I feel like this is a net thing that's going to happen eventually, and I'd rather that the chaos tangle gets untangled earlier than later, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm articulating that
do.
well, but and
No,
obviously there was
it
that
makes
list
sense,
with Archaon, wasn't
you've got to
there?
think. You've got to think practically about it, and even if it would be nice, or fluff wise or thematically, it makes sense. If it just becomes a complete nightmare of balancing, or you have to vanillarize Archaon's War Scroll to such an extent that he becomes dull and stops being Archaon, then I think it's really easy to put out perfect specific case scenarios without realizing how difficult that would be logistically to balance. It's a shame that he can't work in Header Knights. That wasn't an issue, but I get why it's an issue in the other tomes.
Well, he can still be in a Head Knights army, but it's all the combo stuff you can't do with like the Keeper and all that. But to be honest, like, it kind of Electman. I do think Order does have a bit of tangle. It's not as tangled if you're talking about cities, and that's why I don't really like the cities faction. It's like for me, that's almost like the old Dogs of War. I don't really like it.
Yeah,
It's like because it is just
cities
borrowing
is
from too much, and then it
cities
becomes
is a bit messy.
yeah, and it kind of creates its own issues, a bit like Chaos, but I don't think it's as bad as Chaos was.
You've also got the issue of Stormcast in Order. Like
Yeah,
they are too wide open, in my opinion.
but
I
that
get
fits
why
the
it
law,
makes
right?
sense. And
So
well, yeah, but so does Archeon being in every army.
yeah, but
You know,
it doesn't mean that your Bloodstoker should whip him for bonuses and things like that, does it? I mean, like I liked lists with Archeon where you had the combos and it was about what could you find in the faction to unlock his potential, and
Yeah.
you could. So I, from a list and competitive point of view, I enjoyed that process.
Yeah,
So
you also have to invest a huge amount to do that as well. You know, if you want to get Archeon to attack twice with a keeper, you're spending 420 plus.
oh yeah, but you just
860
wouldn't.
points.
The reason you didn't see it is because it's no good, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
the problem, because it's like Destiny dice with Archeon and stuff like that, and it's like
Well, they were for free. That wasn't War Scroll to War Scroll. That was a battle tome, and that's I think where you didn't have to invest anything. You just bought him for his points, which were fine and balanced already, and then you got this thing on top of it, which had no requirements, no areas of effect or ranges, or you didn't have to get a spell off to make it work or anything like that. So I do get it.
yeah, and like I don't know where that. I don't know what this will do to Archeon in competitive play, whether we just won't see him, but I do think there's competitive slaves Archeon lists. So I still think you'll see him, but I don't think he'll be as dominant. And whereas I don't think like I don't think this really does a lot to this update in total, does a lot to like balance the meta or anything like that. I don't think it really does that. It's just moves stuff around a little bit.
Yeah. I like the Unleash Hell changes and stuff like that, and the amulet. I think they make a big difference, and I think they're a real.
I think they're a nice
direction.
change. I mean, even takes the edge off a little bit of the More Crusher, because that was a aggro More Crusher 5-up ward is kind of a bit of a staple. I mean, I still think aggro Angel's still good. Obviously, Gore Granters have been increased, so that reins that in a little bit. So, Death.
What about your boy then? How's your boy doing?
I think the problem with this. So basically, Nagash gains the new ability. I like that. Has lost hit the best ability he had, which was his command ability, which was the reroll ones to hit and to save across your army. And you get this +1 to ward rolls in the combat phase. So it doesn't affect shooting. It's basically junk, right? And you can't do it on yourself. So you can't give Nagash a better save because he's
not table wide, really specific.
So like,
has a range.
Is it worth the command point? Don't know. Like, I don't think so. So his Supreme Lord of Undeath ability, which is it return more to death units, but he doesn't get any allegiance abilities, but he does still get the spell laws where it's noted. I'm still not sure he gets it in Nighthorn and Flesh Eaters, because now he can go in Nighthorn and Flesh Eaters, but I don't think because the rules at the top of the law, whether or not they've actually been updated the actual FAQ for those, I don't think they have.
Yeah,
no.
If anyone's had little knows, then do let us know. Alex, the 6+ amulet, I think is still, it's still an option, but now it's kind of on equal footing with other stuff. Or, you would consider different things like Worsening Rend or whatever it is.
Wizard Hat, probably.
I don't think it's poo. Yeah, which is great. I don't think it's poo now, but it's not no brainer.
No, you might actually take that armor. No, you still probably won't take the armor.
You might consider something else from the book.
no,
nice.
Apart from Destroyer on your second one. Honestly, like the thing I found with Nagash is that the death books were written quite well. That he wasn't exploitative, because the way that
expensive.
it was written was like in Soul Blight, you didn't benefit from a lot of, because it was said like, oh, you have to be a vampire or a vampire unit, and he's not. So the Soulblight book was really nicely written to not combo stuff. OBR really get hammered with this. Yeah, exactly, Rob. You've hit the nail on the head. Basically, he doesn't have a 6-up Deathless save, because the Deathless save is part of the allegiance abilities. So Nagash doesn't have a death save, even though he's the Lord of Death, which is just bonkers, right?
Andrew.
And also, he doesn't have the keyword. So I don't think he gives death save to other units, because he's not like an Ossiarch Bone Reaper hero. So unless that gets FAQ'd, then it's really weird, because you'd think he should count, right? I mean, it's strange. So it's one of those things. Like, I just there's a lot of nuances in the Death book, because it was in the allegiances. There's very specific mentions of Nagash in the allegiances, and by removing all of that, the impact of that is massive. So like, it's even like in OBR, he doesn't generate Relentless Discipline. He can't use Relentless Discipline, and he can't use Relentless Discipline abilities. So technically, he couldn't use his new command ability, but I think they've FAQ'd it, if I find it, because I did discuss it, which is here. If Nagash is included in Ossiarch Bone Reaper army, can Relentless Discipline be used to issue his Death Magic Incarnate command ability? If so, can he use it more than once? Yes. But it doesn't mean... One of the big things with Nagash is his speed. He's only movement 9. So you can't actually use the +3 move because he's not an Ossiarch Bone Reaper. So it's a bit weird. So it says, if Nagash is included, the only command is Death Magic Incarnate. Now, actually, in OBR, that's actually quite a good ability. Like, honestly, doing it multiple times. But you're just not going to see him, because he's too expensive, and losing the reroll ones to hit and to wound. What you had around Nagash was so strong.
It's halved.
It's
it
just
also
doesn't
halved, right? Because you pick up
yeah.
half of an army.
Well, yeah, but then you needed a command ability. But what that was a constant drain on your command point resource.
Yep.
So that's essentially, Andrew, he only has a 4-up ward against mortal wounds, not against normal wounds. So he doesn't get against normal attacks, whereas in a death army, normally he would get 6-up. So it's a bit weird, because basically, like, the OBR, like, he doesn't get Petrifix as well, which is huge. So I honestly,
it's the death of
it's the death of death. And his War Scroll has been changed, and he's got some more combat ability, which is fine, but he's never going to... I mean, in OBI, he can't use all-out defense, so are you really going to put him in combat? And he's not going to... The Petrifix worse than Rend anymore, and if you take Catacross, or you do like that weird, +1 armor, it doesn't get that anymore, because he's not... Because you could have done like Nagash and Catacross as a list.
He's no longer the force multiplier that he was, is he? Which seems like a bit of a shame when he's 900... something points.
Well, it'll be 900 and something, because he always goes up and down, up and down, up and down. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's almost like it gets fiddled with so much, but I don't understand why. Because I think he was in a really good spot where he was. I don't think it's a necessary change.
It was an issue. It was beatable. Maybe you couldn't kill him with some armies, but you could then kill everything else in the entire list and still win the game. So yeah. To move on from him, do we need to hang up the Nagash towel and then?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I still think he's got play, but I just don't think it's an OBR. Basically, I think OBR Nagash lists for competitive play are gone. Basically, so that's really it. Apart from the points adjustments and the new scroll, so I guess we should probably go to the scrolls, then we'll go back to the points. So
yeah, let's go to Kragnos, because
yeah. So he's got, I think the End of Empires is the new ability, which is for friendly destruction unit holding within 12. If this unit, you can attempt to charge that unit if it's within 18 of the enemy instead of 12, and you roll 3d6 instead of 2d6. Now, seems like quite a cool ability. You can get in combat, but Beastclaw Raiders, Olgamore tribes get to roll their charge roll as mortal wounds, right? So going from a 2d6 to a 3d6 roll is massive, especially when you're monsters and you're doing on mortal wounds at a 4+. Plus, obviously, probably he's got the mightiest makes rightiest, where he counts as 30 models until he's taken 9 wounds. Then 25, nice. 20, 18. So this makes him a like a Gargant capture power in your
viable,
army.
I think.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he was really, for his points, he didn't do enough. He felt too fragile. He didn't affect the board enough. He just killed everything around him, which very destruction-y, but ideally he'd kill everything around him and matter more on the whole for his points. So I quite like all of this.
No, I think they're all great changes, but Kragnos becomes actually really good.
Yeah.
It's exactly a significant buff.
Yeah. That's what I've said since day one. Gargant should have as well. That the bracketed.
Yeah, I agree.
Table objective capture power. So I don't know anything here, but it's really nice that that's there, because maybe that would be considered for them in the future, which would do a lot for the book, and I think stop
one wound Gargant counting as 30. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? So, so like then he's also got this shield which gives him all 6-up ward in addition. So
closing gap turn 1 is a big deal. You want to pin stuff so you can fight it on your terms rather than it dancing around you and magicking you to death or something. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, Rob, but I think they should swap points. Yeah. Well, I think Nagash should come down significantly because he's been heavily nerfed, in my opinion, because of the impact of that.
The 1,000 points next to him has been nerfed. That's
the issue. That's the issue.
Scroll,
yeah.
Right. You have to see it as what is the remaining points left in your faction. All of that got worse.
It's like the Nagash Blood Knight list. Suddenly, all your Blood Knights have got significantly less survival and do less damage. So therefore, like, your army is way less effective, and the 5-up ward save on one unit ain't gonna cut it because you don't care.
No.
Yeah,
Stop he's him like a force multiplier.
He's not as bad, honestly, in Soulblight because he never really got the buffs anyway. Because it's really only like Bone Reapers that feel that they've gotten the bone. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, they got stuff from Nagash and they gave it to Nagash too, didn't they?
I think it's just
the two-way relationship's gone.
The way that the OBR tome is desperately in need of an update.
They did need Nagash, in my opinion, Carl. Hello.
Well, that was the only competitive OBR really we saw doing well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I do think you could run non-Nagash OBR, and I did, but the problem is you've then run into the issues with the game length, tournament round times, needing 5 turns, having some bad matchups. So,
but not an individual. I think team event written all over it, and absolutely, like, it's what if you're going to tier it? I think it goes up a full tier, maybe 2.5 as a team's army.
Yeah,
but as a solo army going to an event, some matchups are just dreadful for you.
I think the issue with teams though is that unless it's 8-man, they probably don't get a look in, and even in 8-man, they're a fringe choice, I think.
Yeah. So it's because someone knows them and loves them and knows how to get the most out of them.
And then the captain tells you no, and says no, you're not taking them. Sorry, Laurie, calling you out. So I had to play Blood Knights. I wasn't allowed them. I literally said I've got this OBR list, and it was just no. I didn't even read the message. It was just no. I was like, okay, all right. Would have been fine. Why don't you let me play my babies? Kragnos significantly buffed.
2 thumbs up. He looks good. I'm really interested to play against it.
He has got that. I thought he would. I was just looking for it in case it got removed. He can't be slain as well. He only takes D6 mortal wounds.
Okay, good.
So like I know he talked about it. I just couldn't remember if it made the final cut. So yeah, and yeah,
I
he's
prefer
awesome.
things took like 2 or 3d3 instead of d6. I think that really, if you've bought something that can one hit KO stuff, or you've invested, or you've got off a spell or something, I do think that the d6 feels real bad. Um, I get, it's clean being roll one dice, this happens, but I do feel that that's a bit too much. Like if it was 3d3, then at least, you might take 6, 7 wounds on average or something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, Kragnos, big thumbs up. Really good.
Yeah, absolutely. He's badass.
I think Ogre More Tribes. I'll credit Tom Maudsley already for his list. I won't go into it, but it's usually looking at iron blasters and things like that for multiple charges and shooting, and it's I think Kragnos is in Ogre More Tribes is going to be a competitive list. We'll see a lot. I do
Nice.
think he adds a lot
Enjoy
to
it.
Bone Splitters and Gits as
Yeah.
well, like factions that don't
Oh,
have
completely now.
those kind of models
Heft.
that count as bodies as well.
But
So
yeah, I think he's also not expensive enough. Like you're not giving
you
up
still get an
a
army,
Nagash's
right?
worth of points. Yeah, you do, and they're both cheap. Bone Splitters in particular, hugely cheap, and it might make them more interesting to play with and make you feel less bad about what happens
Well,
to them.
I think with the state of the game, like you don't really want to move 150 models around the table. So like
Oh no, you
having a
don't.
750 20 point model, whatever it is, allows you
Good
to.
idea.
Yeah, it's a
That's more
good
spells
idea.
to think about, isn't it? As well, by definition, you pop one of those in, and you're losing 2, 3, maybe even 4 others, and possibly big units at that. So I really like his stuff. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, he's solid. So Nagash, we talked about him. He did get a little bit of a buff. So Alakanash, to do it in the Tony Moore
More hit.
voice, has got 4 attacks now at Ren 3 damage d6. So he will feel probably less like a wet blanket in combat than he used to. I know people would be saying what you talk about this, but sometimes he could whiff really badly. He was very
Oh, he absolutely could. One debuff on him feels pretty bad. Like if you could debuff his wound roll in particular, I think that one felt grim.
yeah.
Moving to 4s and 3s to wound doesn't matter how much rend you got if it doesn't get through, and you can't buff it yourself very easily. So
Yeah, falls to
I'm down
wound
for
on
that.
the sword as well. I don't know if he used to be freeze, but he's changed so much I lose track. But yeah, I do have my soul
The
black
Gash
book here.
iteration 500.
Oh, I don't. I still remember that he had a whole army book, and now I can't even play with it anymore. Not bitter. You don't see me making posts about how bad my life is because of it, but
So are we going to Archeon covered, or do we jump straight onto the
so
points?
I think Alakanash was freeze and 2s, and Zephyr Nectar was freeze and freeze, and now it's freeze and freeze for
It's
Alakanash and
100.
freeze and 4s. So he's actually got worse in combat, but not more attacks, but maybe better.
Yeah,
But I'd rather have
less
a more
likely to whiff.
reliable damage free than
Yeah.
I would have a more attacks at a d6 damage, because you know what it's like when you get d6 damage, you're on 1s and 2s, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not. And the wound roll hurts as well, because it's not like you get a bonus to.
Nope. That's what I was saying. You put a Frost Heart next to him, and things feel poop.
Oh, so he does
Or
know all
spells.
the spells in Flesh Eaters and Nighthorn because they've put the rule on the War Scroll. Whereas I was thinking about, because at the top of the lore it normally said Nagash gains access to all these spells. And obviously it wouldn't have
just
been in the
different.
FEC and the Nighthorn book because he wasn't able to go in those books. So yeah, so it's on the War Scroll. So he does know all the spells. So that's fine. He does also get his like 5 summonable OBR units heal 3 wounds. So he gets a thing, which is what he's already had. And then he's got this Supreme Lord. If these units on the battlefield, when you use an ability that returns slain models to death units, you can re-roll the dice that determines the number of slain models returned to the unit, or add 1 to. So that's actually quite good in FEC as well for the courtier rules to bring models back.
Yeah, the more elite you got, the better.
Yeah. And in Nighthorn, he'd be pretty good. So obviously, like, if you played Nighthorn, you didn't have access to Nagash, so that feels like a buff
Just
because
gain
you've got
something.
something you couldn't have had. But whether or not it's effective or worth running is
I think, well, those armies aren't in hugely great spots, aren't they? So there is a lower there's a much lower floor to be raised up by including him, even if he has been debuffed or whatever.
yeah.
So
And the
you know,
spell laws are good. Like the spell laws for Feck are really good. The issue
they're
is he
great.
doesn't have the flesh eater keyword. So it's not like you can make him double move or fly, or get him plus
He's going to
mutate
buff the
him
army
or
around
do
him.
all that stuff because it doesn't work on him, but he can buff everything around him. Nighthorn have got some really good spells. So like I think if you're a deaf player and you've got a Nagash and you'll probably start thinking, how can I make my Feck or my Nighthorn work? There might be some builds in there. I just
Yeah.
think that OBR spot he was in has just been completely smashed. I still think he's
Yeah,
viable in
I would agree with
Soulblight, but I think the issue is the list, the Blood Knight Nagash list has got significantly weaker, and I don't really think it needed to be made weaker. But the ward save, like say, yeah, like getting a 4-up ward in Flesh Eaters because it's +1 ward, and you can get a 5-up with the spell, so you can go Unholy Vitality to get a 5-up, but then his ability +1, so. But if you've got Nagash and a Terrorgeist, you probably don't have an army. So that's the issue. Is he's so many points. It's like, yeah, they've made him more about buffing the army, but you don't have an army. So, and the biggest buff he had was the reroll ones. But I could go on about Nagash for 4 hours, but I won't. So
Next.
sorry.
All right.
So I don't know what's changed on Archeon's War Scroll, if much at all. Really, I don't know if you've looked at him more than I have, but he's not
No,
really.
I had a little news,
I haven't
but
played him since what would be the last Blades of Corn Nagash list that I ran, which would have been in AOS 2 before the
I think
Slaves book come out.
his attack profile is similar.
I've got it here, so I just
obviously
have a quick looky.
we already had Eye of Sheeran. That was a
The
that
Galway
was a
girl.
non-change anyway.
I think he's literally the profile looks exactly the same.
Yeah, and then it's how he interacts that's changed.
Yeah.
I imagine. If anyone's noticed other changes, do please let us know. We're open to that. That's the thing. But I guess in the
if they changed his command ability, his like, is it the eye thing? Subtract 1 from hit rolls. No,
that's already changed. I covered that one.
Yeah, I don't know. He gets 1 extra command point. I don't know. I haven't played him in OS3, so
he had
apologies.
+1 CP anyway. The armor seems to be the same.
I think it's basically the same, isn't it?
Do let us know if his War Scroll has.
The ability for the turn is not him; it's the allegiance, isn't it? If you play him in the host have ever chosen it, so that's what I was looking for. So has that changed? I don't know.
No.
So yeah, I think he's basically the same.
Should we go to points?
Yeah. So we've got a handy. They're in this document, but obviously that just shows you what they are. Whereas there was saw this tweeted by Hellstrom Wargaming. Is that Hellstorm?
Yeah.
It's a little bit small with the actual percentage changes. Although it's Twitter and it won't let me zoom in, but it's at Hellstorm Mikey if you want to look.
I've already linked it in the chat if people would like to look at it. It's a really helpful visual representation of stuff.
Yeah. It won't let me zoom in more than that, but anyway. So let me sort this out while you can fill for a bit, Byron.
Cool. So there's, I mean, let's talk in general about this much stuff getting cheaper, because I think people probably expect us to be, if warranted, really happy about this. But I think in a state of play where games are going on too long still, which they are, even though the edition has time to land and and people know, heroic actions and stuff like that. The game is still taking the longest it's taken as Age of Sigmar. So I don't think encouraging people to put more models on the table is necessarily a good thing, but I do get the practicalities of, lowering points for things that are overpointed. Yeah, to see this many things going down is a little bit odd. I can only speak, with intimate knowledge of a few of the books. Obviously, Slaanesh are going to come up here, but
It's not like you.
I don't think this fixes a single thing about the Slaanesh book.
No.
Speaking with my own example, like what you have to bear in mind is, I have Slaanesh book down here. There were points in the Slaanesh book. Then at the point in which, a normal human would expect them to be fixed because they were already overpointed in, widely held opinion. I think I can state that like it's a fact. They went up again. Feels accidentally. I get why it would happen with timing. But these points feel like they've been adjusted on the previous version, not the previous version. And so what you've ended up with is a state of affairs where, things have got 5 points cheaper than they were when they needed to drop 10, 15, 20, whatever it is. And I just, I don't think it's enough. Blissbob Archers are still the same points as Sentinels, so we can. It's a really easy comparison to draw, and again, it's a bit of a cheap shot. But let's look at Battle Line Archers, available Order in Chaos, and it's the obvious example to pick.
There we go.
I don't see how that still doesn't put things in a good spot. It's good that the Sentinels did go up; they needed to. They're still obscenely absolutely fine for that points value. That is a bargain all day long. And the Blissbobs, I mean, you could have put them down by.
I would have put them down to like 130 or something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, let's be honest. And I know that people will say, "Oh, you can shoot multiple things and get some depravity." And it's like, yeah, but will you though? With their one turn they get to shoot before they get their faces punched in.
Yeah, let's look at survivability on Bravery
6. And Unleash Hell's just been reduced, right? So they're even less effective.
Yeah.
Because the knock-on effect of doing anything at the core rule level is it affects everything. So, although it might be... It's like, if you do that because you're worried about Sentinels and things like that, it also hurts Gloomspike Gitz Archers and Blissbarbs and things that don't need to be fucked with. You do not need to fuck with those armies, right? So it literally hurts them. So,
well, I mean, let's have a look at their points. Is that going to make a difference?
Should we go through top to bottom and just because I mean, Cities of Sigmar. For me, it's almost like there's a lot of stuff that you never see that has got a boost in terms of reduction.
Well, I mean, Rebuild's general on Griffin is questionable in my opinion. He's bloody good. He's really good. The Battle Mage on a Griffin, fine, cheaper, makes sense. But the Freakle general on Griffin, I guess you could state the Amulet of Destiny changes as being a reason why he just got worse because he would have been wearing that.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. But yeah, Iron Drake's getting a bit more expensive. Also, I'd say those ones seem fairly sensible.
Yeah, I think there was an Iron Drake list kicking around with the bridge and stuff.
Oh,
and
several.
I think that was something we asked for retrospectively, when we saw that we said they probably need to go up. I can't remember though, but Daughters of Cain, Avatar and Slaughter Queen again, things you don't really see, and Bloodstalkers going up is probably not a million miles away from what needed to happen.
Seems there or thereabouts. It's a strong book.
I think, and I think people, when these updates come out, think they're like a magic wand that's going to completely fix and reinvent the game, and it's just not that kind of
change
tool.
A War Scroll, guys, with a points adjustment.
It's a nudge. It's not a. It's not like
Cyan, I already linked it. Here it is again. Here is what we are discussing.
So I think they look like you could look at these and be quite negative about it. So this isn't really enough for my faction, or my faction doesn't get enough. But at the same time, it's better than nothing. And I think it's about managing expectations, and I don't think there's enough communication around what the mechanism of this is in terms of the game. And I think that, like, the message, I think if I go to it on the website, what have they called it? They've said so it basically said designers want to ensure it remains fun and fair. They're looking at ways that every army feels fair and enjoyable to use. This is especially important in match play, where small changes can affect the balance of the competitive environment. With this in mind, present and future Warhammer Age of Sigmar updates will be collected into downloadable booklets called Battlescrolls. These gather rule changes, points changes, tweaks into a simple, easy-to-read format, preventing you having to read through hundreds of pages of information. I think that's a really solid change. Like,
I like it, and I like that said the intent of it as well.
This is on the article, so like this is for me, like, and I'm not shilling or anything, if you know, but I just think it's a good step forward from the past when you had, you know, I've just minimized this to be frozen. So it's a good step forward from when we're getting lots of documents you have to go through, look at the magenta, and then try and work out what the impact is. So I think it's a really positive change, just from an access point of view, like a digestible point of view.
Yeah, I agree. Rob Hull, should we not expect more than better than nothing? I think you have to be like realistic, and if a book wasn't balanced or has landed badly due to changes in the edition and being a particularly old one or something like that, aside from changing release schedules, which just isn't logistically practical for, you know, a massive, you know, hugely valuable business to do, they can't be that nimble.
And it's a difficult one, because if you make massive changes too often, then the game will seem very reactionary to customers, like people's like latest opinions, and they're not always
knee jerks.
And
it should be crafted
I
by the creators.
Really want that, but I think that it's a good enough. I think what you got to remember as well, like, I can't say too much, but obviously there was a pandemic going on, so playtesting wasn't exactly very easy. So I'll just put that in that context.
A load of logistical things weren't easy.
There's a lot of stuff that's been happening, which I'm not using an excuse. I'm just saying that, you know, we're in the real world here, guys. I think it does enough? No, I don't. Like, if it was me and it was up to me, I would have done a lot more. But it's not up to me. So it's and it's like, say, it's like a committee. So end of the day, it's like what is done is done, for whatever reason. So I think, you know, anyway, it's nice that they've said that.
Yeah.
These are basically going to be updating some of the rules, and there's going to be tweaks, and you know what they're for, and you know, I think Matt's gone on here and said about what they've done, and I think overall, like, there's some good changes in here, but is it enough?
No.
For what you, I think, and it comes down to what are you trying to achieve, right? So if people think, and this is the issue I have with it, is that people will think, oh, it's there to fix the game, for whatever that means, because everyone's got a different opinion on what the game should be or whatever it should be, right? Some people think that these should be less, some people think they'd be more, some people think Sentinels should only be 150 points, some people think they should be 400 points. You know, it's like this. It's how do you balance that? So not everyone's going to be happy.
Could you pop the one on screen with the green and red?
Yeah, I've got it up. No.
You haven't?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Cheers.
You're just on a lag.
All right, just slated. Yeah, I agree with that. It's a difficult one, but points changes are logistically all you've got without rewriting battle tomes periodically between their releases. So yeah, it's a difficult one to weigh up. I'm still gonna, you know, weigh in and have my opinion on my faction and whether it could have been more or less or whatever. But at the same time, anything that I'm going to suggest about points being lowered is going to increase the amount of models in a game, and as I've already stated, you know, that's not going to speed games up.
No, it's going to slow them up.
Games being too slow is an issue. So I'm going to argue for one thing that I want, and then be saying
I would rather that, like, everything got adjusted against Sinesh than Sinesh got reduced down to everything else. Does that make sense?
Well, you end up like
So
bone splitters with a billion models for no points with not good enough rules.
I'd rather your armies, like the Maggot King army, I think looks quite nice size wise. Like if you think about what you have on the table, it's pretty elegant, right? You know, like it's not many units, it's a few models. You don't roll loads of dice. There's not loads of, well, there's a bit of bookkeeping, but you know, there's because there's like 3 different mechanics to track. But other than that, it's like, you know, it's fine.
Yeah. It's held within its own book, at least.
I think like in the past, I think there's been criticism leveled that the bottom hasn't been brought up, and then it's already focused on bringing the top down. So I think there's a conscious effort in here to look at stuff you'd seldom see and make them more attractive by reducing their points, because that's the lever they've got to pull, right? They can't.
I really like the ethos behind that.
Because it's a different. I think it looks different if you then went in and raised. Essentially, you get the same effect if you went in and raised everything else up. It's essentially like reducing them, but obviously it sends a different message, right?
It does. Yeah, completely. I'd agree with everything you said there. Definitely a bit more of a problem logistically for Horde armies. Grace, I would agree with that one. Can we move on to on the subject of Hordes, Fire Slayers? Like not seeing them around.
I just haven't seen them at all.
No, I have no issues with that stuff.
I don't think it does anything. Like if you were like, I play Fire Slayers, do you care about any of this? Probably not.
And does it make it? I'd still rather it was, you know, even if it lets you put another invocation in, at least it's a step in the right direction. So I'd rather it was like this, and you know, if across an army it makes 70 points worth of difference, that means you can take an elite option instead of a vanilla battle line option, then you know that's an okay thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to make a huge difference when it's not touching units that you take multiple of. Yes. So like when you're taking like its characters, it's like you don't take those characters anyway. You might not have had the points to put them in, and then like 10 points reduction allows you to squeeze them in your list rather than the invocation, or allows you to afford the better invocation you didn't have because you ran one of them, and then
that.
But the reason you don't see them is because they either don't synergize, or they're just not efficient. So
they're just pants.
Reducing their points isn't going to do anything for that, because they still don't have any synergy.
Anything to make me want to put a Heraldor in an army. Like there is nothing you could do apart from point them at 30 points, which would be stupid. So
Rising Crescendo. I see what you said about 40k. I think the Broken Realms books did something along those lines with like the Emerald Host and things like that. So obviously it's a different design team, so it's probably a different ethos of how they wanted to do that. I'm not saying they couldn't do it, because at the end of the day they write the games, so they can do what they want, really, can't they? I mean, at the end of the day, they could, if they wanted to release a PDF changing all the rules for all the books, they could do that, because they have ultimate control, because it's theirs. They did not relate on anyone else. So, but they didn't. So
how do you feel about those KO changes?
Yeah, whatever.
No.
Well,
I mean,
like, I don't play KO really. So like, I think Brock going down 25 is probably not even enough to make him attractive, because it's the problem with him is he's only Barak Nar really. I think the Engine Master in Digital Suit is a good pick, like as a general, because it makes Sky Wardens, sure, like 10 points off. Yeah. You might see them maybe, but you're probably going to take Engine Riggers. I don't.
Nice to have them not pointed at the same value when they're obviously one's better than the other. So
if it was me, I would have rather see some FAQ to address the embarkation and disembarking of the boats, because that's what we put into FACEHAMMER GT pack, because it makes sense. I'd rather.
It's also one succinct thing that really makes difference to a book. So
I personally don't think they need to have a restriction on the models not counting towards objectives while they're in a boat. I don't think they need it.
Yeah.
Because you can hit them, right? If you're in combat with the boat, you can hit them.
Yeah.
So I don't see why it's there. I don't get it. Like why? Just let them count. If you've got 10 Arkanauts in a boat, that's 10 models towards the objective. Why not? Because you can still shoot them, you can still hit them. It's not like they're invulnerable. So don't really get that. But if I was looking at KO, that's the sort of stuff I'd be looking at. But if they're not changing, if they're only looking at points, then are the points positive for Kharadron? Yeah, they're good. You know,
the KO armies end up super small, so it's not like there's the issue with it making armies spammy. Lumineth?
We skipped Ideneth, probably because
Oh yeah,
the aspect of the sea. I mean, it's a significant reduction, but
yeah, fair. Percentage-wise, given his points, it's in line or less than quite a lot of the other stuff in the document. I'm
it's
absolutely
less than
fine with that one.
10% in it, so it's fine.
Yeah. Alekman, this doesn't actually change the meta. I think Kragnos might have some answers for that, mate.
Yeah, and if you talk about the meta, I think the only thing this really does, Archeon's Inch gets hammered. I think Lumineth,
top army.
Sentinels, Teclis armies probably then feel weaker than your Fox list. So I think the Fox list gets better by not being
Goes up and
hit.
stuff.
Yeah.
And it's
Kragnos,
not been clarified.
Ogre More Tribes gets better.
A lot.
I think some of the other destruction armies get a bit of a boost. I think there might be a Nighthorn Nagash list hidden in there somewhere. It would need a little bit of time and to unlock, but I think there's probably something. It's only going to be mid-tier, let's be honest. But like it would go from being bottom to mid. It's like it'll push you up to a better level than you were, but it's not going to be on the top. It's not going to be like going and winning tournaments, which I don't really want a balance change to make anything suddenly jump up into tournament winning.
Yeah.
Like Legion of the First Prince is good, but then the Maggot King book did a massive hit to that because of the impact on Plague Bearers and also the points increase on horrors. So it's like that. No, the foxes didn't get addressed.
Screaming out for it though, in my
because basically no rules were really changed apart from what was summarized at that stop bit, which was the gods. So it was almost like touch the gods, nothing else gets messed around with, apart from points. The majority of the points are decreases, not increases.
So these Lumineth points then, like I'm kind of okay with the top three. I think that's not an issue. Sentinels going up, like you said, it probably raises the stock value of
I think
the foxes.
I think 20 points is fair. But I think because I don't think Lumineth were like that bad. Like for me, like the things. I mean, you can see what I would do. The shrine, the fox move. Those are the things I think need addressing because they're the things that feel particularly egregious. Obviously, it's probably not. They don't want to go in and start tweaking rules on all the War Scrolls because that invalidates a lot of things like War Scroll cards, books. It kind of gets the game gets messy. You end up with printed pages. I mean, I remember the old days where you had to. There was someone actually sold stickers that you could stick in your books. So you'd stick your books over the book because it. So, I personally think there's some stuff in there that needs FAQ, and like I think Alarith has got the same issue the Stalkers had, where the Spirit of the Mountain doesn't have the elite keyword, is not a champion, and isn't a hero, so he can't actually issue a command ability. But he's got a command ability on his War Scroll, so he probably needs that.
It's just a little shuffle, isn't it?
It's like a thing. I saw Martin Orlando chatting about it on Discord, and I hadn't picked up on it to be honest because I don't play Lumineth, so I'll probably ping that across and see if the guys do something about that, but I don't want to hold your breath. Sentinel's going up 20 because it's a unit you take multiple of. It's a force multiplier, right?
It's like 80, 100 points over an army quite easily on.
Which will make a difference. It means you have to lose something, whether that's a hero or it's a endless spell or something. So
it should have been 180, but people would complain too much, in my opinion.
To be honest, I don't think 170. I think you start getting up to 180, 190, it starts to feel a little bit too much, and I think that you've got to be really careful because unless you start reducing other core units or other units like Blade Masters and things like that, which I think legitimately you could do, but then you end up with just where you were because you take those units, they get reduced, they get increased, actually it nets out, so actually it doesn't make any difference. So it depends.
Better fun.
Yeah, so Basidodon's up, unless they got the Snake Engine, which I don't think I've seen.
Yep. Salamander's up also. No,
Yeah, it definitely
never hear
needed.
anyone complaining about that.
Is it enough? Don't know.
Why is why is Skink Priest not in here? The 80.1 cast wizard with one of the best abilities in the game. Like, that just seems absolutely insane. Like that's a blaring omission, and it seems to me. But he doesn't do the damage, so I get why he wouldn't receive the attention. Far too efficient for his points, though.
Yeah, I think as well. Like what you got to remember with him, and I think it's not an automatic ability. There is a role. He's quite easy to kill because he's only I think he's 4 wounds or 5. He's not very tough. Wounds. So like, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like, if the units that he's buffing go up, I'd rather that than the hero. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So
I
can see that. I don't know. Stegodons haven't been touched, so that.
No, but the Salamanders is the main thing, and Basties. If it was me, I would look at the army-wide -1 damage thing and remove it from anything that isn't a monster, but that's me.
Just make it 6 ward. Easy fix.
Yeah. Or just remove it from unless you're a monster. Because I think it's too good. So
I don't know, they can run the monsters as battle so I think something needs to be done that's unavoidable. Potentially it's such a strong ability. Stormcast, we've got just kind of a little shuffle there. Obviously they've acknowledged the points changes that have already gone before with the Stormdrake Guard.
Yeah, and I think that was nice that they did that before the release. Because when we were talking about it, we kind of said, look, you probably need to publish this before. Because we had a bit of a dilemma. It's because of the delay to them going out, it was do you let people buy them and then literally 2-3 weeks later adjust them? Or do you tell people the adjustment before their release, but then are people going, I think it's a better way round to do it, but obviously it's their business decision what they want to do, and I think they made the right call on that. I definitely think the dragons needed to go up from what they were. The reductions on the heroes, again, because they're the heroes now. The only one I don't agree with is Vander's Hammerhand, because I think it's a bargain at 205. So, because he basically gives you he's just so good. It's just that. It just seems I don't know why. It's almost arbitrary. There's named characters you haven't seen in lists at events, but there hasn't been that many events. So, Garda's going down is cool. I'd rather just see some of the Celestant rules on his War Scroll than his points go down, because I think he should feel like a badass, and he doesn't really. But it's welcome. If you play Hallowed Knights, Garda's going down 10 points might make a difference. Probably not.
Well do.
Might allow you to upgrade a unit of Liberators to Vindictors or something in your list, but it's not really going to make much difference. So
you've got so many nice battle line choices that I'm sure you will find a use for those points easily in Stormcast. There's plenty of options there, isn't there? No arguments for the Sylvaneth either. Them going down is absolutely fine. Again, it's heroes. Some of them you can take in multiples, so that'll add up a little bit. But I have no issues with the Sylvaneth ones.
No, I think when you're just reducing heroes or big monsters, it has very little impact on this, because you don't take multiple of them very much. We take 1 or 2, 3 maybe, but you're not taking 6 times that War Scroll. So really, the points increases and adjustments on stuff that's battle line or units is the thing that makes the biggest difference. Because if you're spamming a unit, for example, if Hellstriders in Sinesh were 135 feel like a bargain. If they went down 10 points, you're already running 5 units. That's a significant change. That's saving. Whereas if you're running, I don't know, Sinessa and she goes up 10, whatever, or goes down 10, whatever. It's my. So the Flesh Eater changes. So when we talked about units, this is actually quite a good change.
We've mentioned these a lot as well, haven't we? In probably over a year or something like that.
Yeah. Hey, Gabe. So Crypt Ghouls going down. I always thought they should be in the same points as Skellies. zombies. They were always a bit more expensive, and never really understood that. So they're now the same price as skeletons. So pretty cool. Abhorrent Ghoulkin on Rural Terrorgeist going down. I never knew why he went up really for AOS3. So yeah,
Zombie Dragon.
Yeah, Zombie Dragon. Sorry. So
yeah.
And then Crypt Horrors going down is good, but they suffer from the issue.
125 and 110. There isn't.
Yeah, there's a big difference there. Yeah, especially if you're taking like 9 to 12 of them. Suddenly you're saving 60 odd points, and if you've got ghouls in your army, if you've got like 40 ghouls in your army, you're saving 40 points. You're suddenly getting 100, 110 points. You know,
big deal. Just noticed in chat, one person said as a Stormcast player, people are calling for the heads of Fulminators and Long Strikes. I'm not going to talk about them. 5 comments below. Very surprised to see Fulminators and Long Strikes unchanged.
Well, I think it's one of those things. Like Fulminators, I think, are undercosted.
So efficient.
But Long Strikes, I would say, were overpriced.
Yeah, I would. People don't like the type of list they're in.
No.
I would agree with that.
Because it's not they're not really the issue. It's the Holy Command and it's the other stuff that goes with it that's the issue. Because actually, like, Long Strikes
expensive per wound. They're insanely expensive per wound.
Yeah. I mean, obviously good. They're competitive because they allow you to hit stuff at a range that you couldn't hit. They do mortals. They've got good rend. They're reliable. So they're competitive. You see them in competitive lists, but are they egregious enough to need an increase just because they're good and you see them? No, I don't think so. But Fulminators, personally, I think probably should be increased. But that's my own personal opinion.
Too good, easily. Mega efficient. What about the Nighthorn then?
Good changes. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the Black Coat should be 120 points at the moment. So, I never understood why it was anywhere near 200. Like, not a monster, not a hero. Why? Kurdos, they keep reducing him. You still don't see him because he's just not very good. It's a shame because the model is badass. I'd love him to be
so cool.
Raikkonen, I really like Raikkonen, so him going down 20 points is a good thing. But at the end of the day, Nighthorn, you're not going to fix the problems with Nighthorn by reducing some of the seldom seen things by 20 points. But if you play the faction and you love the faction and you like black coaches and you like Kurdos or Raikkonen and you go, well, I've just got 60 points extra, so I can buy something that doesn't do a lot.
Spell.
Fine.
Upgrade one battle line.
I can have some Banshees, or I can take 10 Crypt Gas or Chain Gas or whatever they are now. Sure. Does it fix the faction? Does it balance the faction? No. Of course not. Like,
precursor to when we get to Gleam's Bites. If your book's not.
It's the same with the Flesh Eater stuff, right? The issue with Flesh Eaters is they've got a baked-in ability round Feeding Frenzy, which is in the command ability, which you can't now do on top of other command abilities because it's all in the same phase, and you can't benefit from more than one. So the issue with Flesh Eaters losing power is because of that. Obviously, Bill Sousa won an event with Flesh Eaters, so he's the X factor when it comes to this stuff. So you can say, well, they're still okay, but not really. Like like Crypt Horrors are overcosted. They've gone down. Great. I think the good thing about the Flesh Eater changes, they are units, so you have multiple of them.
Yeah.
Whereas the Nighthorn stuff is like stuff you probably only have one of, if at all. So you're saving 20 points in a 2,000 point army is like whatever. I mean, we gave Nighthorn 150 extra points, and it made a bit of a difference, but like not really. And you're not going to be saving 150 points on your army with these adjustments. So
you're going to save 40 maybe. How do you feel about the OBR ones then that are there?
I mean, sure. Like, if you play Mortis Praetorian, well, you say that, but with the Nagash change, Petrifix Elite is the go-to choice, and it probably should still be with Arcan. But if you run Catacross and Arch Cavalos Xantos, which I have done multiple times, because of the +1 to wound command ability, or the reroll wounds, I can't remember what it is now, but I think it's reroll ones or reroll all if they're chaos. Buffing the wound roll's massive, particularly with Mortec Guard or with the catapults. The issue is you can't do that and Shield Wall because they're both command abilities, and you don't have bludgeon, so you because you're not in Petrifix. So, is it if you play Mortis Praetorians? Yeah, sure. I think the only person I've ever seen run Vok Mortian is Matt Lyons, and I think it's more of a lore choice. Let's use that word rather than a competitive choice. If you save an extra 20 points, it could make the difference. You better afford a 200-point elite unit or a unit of cavalry over a unit of Mortec, because actually with Bone Reapers, because of the points bracketing is weird. It's just like 140, 170, 190, 200, 210.
Oh, but it's like old Iron Jaws where you end up with 80 points free or something.
A 20-point saving might push your 170, 190 that then opens up taking Harbingers or, something like that. So a 20-point saving might make the difference between being able to order another catapult or not, or upgrading a Mortec to cavalry. So if that's an upgrade, I don't know. But, you should always have one unit, I think. But so potentially they could make a difference if you play Mortis Praetorian. And short of changing what Mortis Praetorian and Petrifix does, that's probably a nice way to balance the internal balance of the book between Mortis Praetorian and Petrifix. Will you still play Petrifix? Probably. So, I mean, I could talk more about OBR because they're something I've delved into. I don't think it makes a huge difference.
No. Well, let's talk about something else you've delved into then with the Soulblight.
Right.
I think there's some discussions out of this, I think.
Mortis Engines going down 20 points. People who know me know I love a Mortis Engine. I still think there's a 4 Mortis Engine list out there, which is filthy.
You just got 80 points cheaper.
And you've just saved 80 points. The White Dwarf update has just buffed Legion of Blood and Legion of Night significantly, in my opinion. Black Knights are battle line in Legion of Blood. They've come down 20 points, which is a whopping amount.
Like, they are, points per wound. Like, you're paying 10 points per wound. It's in 5 models that don't worry about coherency. They've got a 5-up save. They do D3 mortal wounds on a 2+ on the charge. They've got quite a lot of, albeit crap attacks, but still quite a lot of attacks. They're easily buffed.
They're fast.
They are fast in a
really
death army,
fast.
which is, a big deal. I think Black, they're going to go in some lists. This is the first thing I picked up on when we had a little chat before the show, wasn't it? I was just like, really? Went to check out their rules. They've also got a really good, their command suite is amazing, being the musician. I think you can auto 6 your run and stuff just.
Oh,
Black Knights are good.
That is good. I know they get I think it's auto 6 charges, isn't it?
Let me double check. Either of those is good.
I've got to now try and skim through the book and find where they've hidden the Death Rattle stuff away in the weird order. So Standard Bearer is reroll 1 for Deathless minions. Musician is charge rolls less than 6 are treated as being 6. So still good. I mean,
still great. Yeah.
Black Knights, I know there, but
hey Chris.
I do love a Mortis Engine, but I still think there's a list, particularly with how the Mortis Engine AoEs when it shoots. Unleash Hell with that could be pretty good, but having 4 of them just unleashing behind walls of skeletons, and having the Black Knights for board position. And the good thing about Legion of Night, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the White Dwarf update too much, but one of the things they've put in is that when a hero is not a monster fights, you can immediately activate another unit. And where you've got things like Unholy Impetus, where if you kill a model with your White Lord on Steed, who makes Graveguard battle line, you could immediately fight with the Graveguard, and they've just got bonus attacks because you've just killed a model with the White King, and there's no weight delay, so you get the full impact of the whole unit with +1 attack. I'm not sure if Radikar the Beast is a monster. I don't think he is, so I think that's I think his command ability is I don't think it's reliant on killing anyone actually, so I don't think it matters. But
That type of stuff is how I
So-
felt the Bone Splitters should have worked, because they've got their after the Savage Big Boss is fought,
Yeah.
you can immediately fight with the unit within 3. Like, I think them fighting and being fired up at the same time is a really cool way
Yeah.
to play.
So Radakar is, if he charges, it's a command ability. Start the combat phase. So he can go in, pop his command ability. You could go with your White King, kill a model. Your Grave Guard with great weapons now got +2 attacks, 4 attacks a model. Jobs are good in. Delete, delete, delete. Do the whole
Gary,
delete.
like
delete,
that is
delete.
a legit good list.
Legit
That's,
combo, right?
Probably how OBR feel like their their Mortis Guard should be behaving a little bit. Yeah, really, really good. James Benzel, I think building Black Knights is not a bad idea whatsoever. Like, I don't.
No, if you're playing Legion of Blood, and I think Legion of Blood got another bonus as well in the White Dwarf update, so it's
Tasty.
It's good.
Like, they are an efficient unit. That's a badass efficient unit, and I like that.
It's aggressive points drops like that. Looks like a very aggressive point drop for me.
As a percentage, like you've got 1/6 cheaper in a oneer. Yes, please. Movement 12 in death. Let's go.
And their battle line, but their battle line. So you could spam them like 5 units of Black Knights for 500 points. I think you could spend your points worse places.
You absolutely could. I absolutely love battle line like Cav. They only got a 5-up save, but they got.
Well, you play Sinesh because of course you do. It's the only thing that isn't overcosted.
And Sigmar. Like they are. They don't worry about coherency. They got a 5-up save. They got a 6-up after save that they get to re-roll, which is a bit better than a 6-up after save. That's absolutely fine. Loads of crap attacks. They will muller their way through other stuff that has a 5-up save as a result of it.
They're resilient. They're like if you add a unit of 10, I know they've got not a very good save, but with all that defense and a re-rollable deathless save, and they're summonable, so they could be recycled. So they're not terrible. Like, if you look at the other battle line or what I call chaff choices, and like what the Rust Belt Blacksmith makes a point about Unleash Hell. Now, people who watched our Soulblight coverage will know I talk about Fellbats a lot and say that Fellbats are great because of the Unleash Hell and the speed.
Yeah.
They do the same thing.
Points. Yeah, the points different. Is people used to take.
They're only 25 points more.
Yeah. People used to take 5 dogs times 3. These poople over 5 dogs times 3. They've also got a 2-inch reach. There is not much about their War Scroll that I don't think is awesome. None of it's like sexy or crazy, but they do some mortal wounds on the charge reliably. So I think they are definitely a thing. They're also quite fast to paint, and it involves painting less hordes of skeletons. And you don't have to get me started on how positive I think that is for.
But it is painting cavalry experience. So the new skellies aren't too bad to paint, actually. I mean, I say that, but I haven't actually painted a single one, and they're still in a box. But
I've painted.
That's just like that's like my own life. That's like everything I have, as you know. Yeah. So Gloomspite. So again, like we said about other stuff, these increases aren't going to make your faction suddenly top tier. And I think if that was your expectation, then sorry, it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a Troggoth army, like there is, like you're going to be saving a small character's worth of points or more,
maybe
over an army.
But I don't think you took Dankhold though. You took the Fellwater and because they have the shooting attack and stuff. So
tend to took a block of the Dankhold ones, and a 9. It can't be a 12 anymore. But still, that's 60 points saved, which isn't insignificant. A lot of people would chuck in one of the other characters or 2 of the other characters, being a Mangler Squig in there, or the Trog Boss going down by 10. So there's some savings here. I don't think the army's going to feel any difference. This isn't what Feck got, basically.
No, I think if you're playing Hollow Morn Feck or a traditional Feck list within the battle line, losing those points is going to make more of an impact than probably what these are, unless you're playing Troggoths. But then even then, they probably find because you're playing pure Troggoth, you don't have any points for anything anyway. I don't know if you put.
Yeah.
I don't know if a Troggoth purist would put a grot in their army. That's all I'm saying. I just don't know if it's. I don't know if it's a thing. But yeah. Ogre Tribes, the Gluttons. Tyrant,
Yeah.
Noblars, Iron Guts.
They already just got Kragnos. None of this can be bad, right?
Again, they're core units, right? So like,
Yeah.
I think the problem with like Gluttons and Iron Guts is the issue with coherency, because
Yeah.
they run as a free. As soon as you go up to 6, they have the issue of coherency. They haven't got low reach. They are expensive for what they are, and you're like, okay,
It's not as a percentage. That's a lot lower than some of the other stuff we've seen. 260 to 250 is negligible.
yeah. I mean, it's like where you've gone from like they could have probably done
120.
been more aggressive. So like
Yeah.
personally, like I don't like Noblars. I never have. I don't like them in ogre armies. I don't like the idea of having to have lots of little things in your army. You could make him 20 points. I wouldn't play him because I hate them. So like for me, it makes a difference because like it's an ogre army. Noblars are fine as on the banner or like on the crew on something, but as a unit, I just don't. It's like Hobgrots. So I don't want to run Hobgrots in Cruel Boys. Like I don't want to. Like they're not in my head. They're not orcs, so I don't want to run them. Like I know it's like there's people out there going to be going, "What are you talking about?" And it's just a personal preference. Yeah.
Electron, I don't think GW has it in for Gloomspite. I just think they are a book that has particularly been left behind by the edition and wasn't strong anyway.
It's quite old, isn't it? Now, like
yeah, they've been triple hit. I don't think it's a conscious effort driven by hatred. I mean, they're one of the the best loved, most generic Tolkien,
and they're one of the best sellers as well. So like if they're looking at that as data, they're going, well, actually they sell really well. So like they're fine, right? I mean, obviously not, but you know.
Do remember we're talking from a tournament gaming perspective. But remember how many people have played Orcs and Goblins or read about Orcs and Goblins in any of the other billion fantasy worlds out there, and how good the models are. So it does definitely does show out. I would like them to be better, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's some personal vendetta from them on
them. Yeah, I mean, do they need more help? Yes. Do Nighthorn need more help?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's not. Debisa Chaos needs something. I don't even know if they're even in here, are they?
Anything.
Oh, they are. Oh, they're coming up.
The armies end up huge anyway. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but we saw how it went at FACEHAMMER, didn't we? We gave them 200 points. Didn't make any difference. So,
Mancrusher Gargant mob, 15 points.
We've missed the War Clans. You skipped it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Gobsprak and Gordrak have gone down.
Good.
Yeah, because Gordrak could probably go down a bit more, but you know.
He got by about 60. I guess they had to put him for Big War.
Really should. Yeah, he was really overcosted for what he's good, but Gore Grunters have gone up 20. Yeah, probably needed to happen.
Talk about that. It did. Should we talk about the elephant in the room here with the Cruel Boys? Like that ain't enough. Right, what about their battle line?
It's too soon. I think I can't say too much. We discussed it anyway. Let's put it that way. I think that in an ideal world, I don't think they wanted to really touch Oryx or Stormcast because they hadn't been much time out in the wild. But
yeah, I guess it's.
I can't go into too much detail, but basically, I had the discussion about Gut Rippers.
The obvious one.
I would say
just one more thing in there.
I would say that more data is needed. Let's put it that way.
No, that's absolutely fair.
So,
I can see that. We'll struggle to collect data if we don't see them anywhere. But
well, that's data in itself.
Yeah.
No, honestly, that is something they look at. So, like, that's why some of these units are increased because they weren't seen. That doesn't, and the dangerous thing is that doesn't necessarily mean they need the. And this is the same issue we had when we did the Mo comp back in the Wild West. Nobody takes X. Let's reduce them. Suddenly, that's all people take because people will go to the most effective thing, and it's on a pivot. So at the moment it's like that, and then you go suddenly it does that. It's a complete flip, and there might be a lag of prep time, but it's a very difficult balancing act. So like for me, like the Black Knight change is probably too far.
Agreed.
But is it going to break the game? No.
But it
because
also matters how beloved the units are, how nice they are to paint, how affordable they are to buy, and how, whether people would want to own or risk because they might get fixed bunny ears.
yeah,
Whether people want to own, 7 units of 5 of them and build them and paint them and pay for them.
or
So
just
yeah,
have them left over from all their start collecting boxes from back in the day.
oh, I got so many.
Every time you bought
So
a
many.
Mortark, you got 10 skeletons or a Mortis Engine. You got some Black Knights that you
Exactly.
didn't use.
If I hadn't built Hex Race, I think I would genuinely have 70 Black Knights in my cupboard.
And
Now I've only got 50.
And I think like what JT Ownsbury the third is talking about, if that's the right way to say that, about like Fulminator's been an example of stuff just flipping the switch. Suddenly, if you put Fulminators up, suddenly you'll see loads of Concussors or Decimators, and it's like it's still a Fulminator, still a Dracoth, right? But it's not a Fulminator. It's just that Fulminators are the most effective ones in that points bracket. So that's what you see. Like it's if dragons hadn't got increased, Fulminators would have fallen off to the wayside, perhaps maybe in cities, because the dragons were undercosted. So they would have replaced the Fulminators. But because the dragons went up, Fulminators retained their place. So it's like, but only probably in cities and not in Stormcast. So it's like it's a difficult thing to judge and balance, and all this done is not done in a vacuum, and it's all done with time delays. So lining this up, we did, James. We did do comp. Yeah, it did happen. We gave
some of it's made its way into.
Yeah, so we FAQ'd stuff like Cogs, the Umbral Spell Portal, which are in. They're actually the official FAQs are updated with those things. Not saying that's because of us, but Lumineth Shrines, Lumineth Fox moving in the opponent's shooting phase. We put Go Trek. We stopped him using. I think it was heroic actions. And then we added extra points to Beastman, Gloomspite, and Nighthorn. A couple people took those armies; they wouldn't have taken them. Yeah. But in terms of did it make much of a difference to their placing? Not really. But it was enough to encourage people to go back to the drawing board and get excited and look at their list again. And honestly, like. Yeah, we did Monk Gaming. We did fix the Foxes. We changed the rules so they couldn't move in the opponent's turn. Whether that's the fix, I don't know, but that's what we thought would be a good thing. So one of the good things about these adjustments is suddenly you get, like, for example, and I'll talk about Soulbite because it's my bag, right? The Mortis Engines going down, the Blood Knights going down, and the White Dwarf update gives me the enthusiasm to go back to the book, find a list, whether it's Legion of Blood or it's Mortis Engine focused. And it gives me that impetus to get excited. And actually, is it more or less effective than playing another list in the book? Probably not. But it reinvigorates my enthusiasm for the faction. So sometimes that's the push that's needed, because
I like it.
I think, for me, there's not enough people playing with everything in the game to really understand what is good and what isn't, other than opinion, because people listen to people like us or other people on the internet and forums and chat rooms who say this is not very good or this is better than this. So they don't even look at those other things. And sometimes you can play through weaker units and get lucky, because there's element of luck in the game, because it's like poker, right? You could play the best way you ever played, but if there's 1% chance they hit the river and they hit the river, you still lose, right? So you've made all the right decisions, you've just lost. So I think it's a very complicated thing to look at trends, because there's not enough meaningful information. I won't go into data too much, but in my opinion, it's very difficult to draw too many conclusions from it. And I know some people say it's obvious, this is wrong, or this needs to be fixed. And maybe you're right. But then there's other things that go on. It's like, is it the right time? When was the thing that comes out? When was it done? Was it done after that lesson was learned? But before, because it's not always, stuff isn't fixed, then immediately released. So you've got to, there's a lot behind the scenes that goes on. All I can say is that everyone was being privileged enough to be part of the process. Everyone who works on the process wants the game to be the best it can be. Nobody's going out there to go, I want to make this faction rubbish. that's just not happening, right? So, I know that might me sound like being overly positive or just being realistic, because at the end of the day, like, it's a complex game. There's a lot of moving parts. Let's put it that way. Anyway, goal Grant's gone up 20 points. Discuss.
Needed.
Yeah.
Yep. Justified, about the right amount. Yeah.
The irony is, it's probably because the rend got changed, which then made them too cheap, which might be why they've gone up. Because when we pointed them, they were Ren 1, so...
Yep. Well, that's why it feels fair.
Well, yeah. But it's nice that was addressed, so...
Completely.
Man Crush and Gargant Mob going down 15.
Fine with that.
Sure, but the issue in the room, the elephant in the room is the 4 mega list, right? So...
They need to be 505, or, something that means you can't have 4.
And the problem you've got with that is that people have gone out and bought their 4 mega armies. If you suddenly make it you can't run 4 megas, you're never going to use your 4th mega, are you? And that's the issue. So
have the option, though, I guess.
There's a reluctance to do that.
Invalidate. Yeah, I get that.
And I actually don't think the issue is with the 4 mega list. I think it's all the stuff like the heroic actions, the generic command abilities, the Amulet of Destiny, the battle pack, all that layered on top. And it's a bit like when we talked about where you got your core rules and then you have all these bolt-ons.
Yeah.
Trying to balance the impact of all the multipliers or the modifiers to the core. If you have less of this shit, this is a lot easier to balance.
Yeah.
It's a bit like in... Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, at the point we're at, all of that stuff exists. If we were going to drop something that was a fix, then putting their points up is the only real way you can do it that is, fits with this kind of ethos.
Yeah.
Without giving them a new book or changing the edition or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, a new battle pack would do a massive amount to change their power balance, because the realm of Gur and monsters being the focus obviously benefits them greatly. So
yeah, it does. I still feel like they're unless you're going to change them to having a Kragnos table with how they score on objectives, I just think the fact that they can boot them about, which has already been noted by JT the third, that's inherently so strong that I think all you're left with at this point is the way to make it so someone can't put 4 on the table unless you are going to change war scrolls or battle tomes.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think this battle scroll is the mechanism for that. And like, I think as long as they remain consistent with what battle scroll is, what the handbook is, what the timing and what's happening. Now we're in a new edition. If the battle scroll is this kind of update and it's consistent, I'm fine with that, because we know that. I find it's a bit different for me because I get a precursor to this, but I still get affected by it because I get hit by it earlier. I find that the steam and enthusiasm for an army can be gutted out of you if there are big sweeping changes too often, because you get excited about something and then, like, the Nagash is a prime example. So I painted Nagash and I took him to a Warhammer World event, and literally the next week I saw the precursor about this change, which would then make a Nagash and OBR, that list basically break. So I'm like, well, I've painted a Nagash for my OBR in my OBR scheme, and I'm probably not going to play with him until there's some update to that battle tome in the future, because I can't see it. On the plus side, I've got a Catacross that I need to rebase, so maybe he'll get done now. So, like, whatever. But, and I think just accepting that is difficult sometimes.
For sure, especially for geeks.
Yeah, but I mean, I get it. But it's, if you know that's coming or those things happen, then you can just put up with it, right? Yeah, I guess I agree with what Squirrel's saying, because there are changes to War Scrolls on the gods. So it's like, well, why don't you change more War Scrolls? So it's like, if it's one rule, don't change War Scrolls, and it's just points, but then it's both. Then why isn't it more? Or why isn't it less? Or
They're
why?
trying to do it, but minimally. And
Yeah.
then there's an unclear line that they're drawing there. And I get why you'd want to have the ability to change some stuff, especially fundamentally if it's to do with the gods of the grand alliances of the game. I can get it, but I don't
my
understand
personal opinion is if the change is good for the game, it shouldn't wait for an arbitrary milestone if you've got a mechanism to affect it. So this is why I think that foxes should be in this update, that they can't move in the opponent's shooting phase.
Yeah.
My personal opinion,
I would.
that's just me.
I'd say if it can be done succinctly, that also makes a difference. Like the boats change or objective scoring with KO. If you could, in theory, have a post-it stuck in one page of your book, and that makes all the book feel better and feel more balanced, make more people likely to take it or consider it, and reinvigorates it. I feel strongly that is a good thing.
You've got an errata. You've created the mechanism of errata, and you've set a precedent of changing rules. So if that rule changes for the benefit of the game at a competitive level, I think it should be done as soon as it's realised that's for the benefit of the game.
Yeah. Or if the book's over a certain age, or it's going to be a certain amount of time until it gets a new book, or something like that. I could see both those being.
I don't even if they're going to get a book in 3 weeks' time, it's still like, whatever. It's still do it. It doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
Even if you're telegraphing what might be in the future, it's like just do it. It's like fine. Why wait?
I guess if they had a fixed schedule with the with this stuff, these came out every 3 months or whatever, then you would kind of self-comp that.
Yeah.
In that it couldn't happen more frequently. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're consistent with it, it's fine. So anyway, we can. Beasts of Chaos. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does it?
It makes a difference to the elite army. You've got Bulgors, Dragon Ogres, and the Shaggoth all going down by, as a percentage, like a decent amount. Gorgons were crap for their points, so were Cygors. They're approaching kind of like, Manticore should have gone down in points too, I feel. Seems a bit weird because that's so expensive for how fragile it is. So if they're going to bring down those monsters, they should have brought down all of them. But that'll make a difference across an army. The army does end up very big anyway, but they've brought down the points of the elites. So I have no issues with any of that and think it's all, they're steps in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think if you play Dragon Ogre army, is it competitive? No. Not if you're talking about cutting edge match play. You've got more points. Does it maybe make you more excited about looking at it as an option if you play Beastmen? Maybe.
Yeah.
Does it make Bulgors more exciting as a coalition? Or Dragon Ogres?
Yeah, that's a good point. These
might be something to look at for your Celestial army.
Yeah, fair. They need the bloody help.
Something. I mean, they're better than Fiend. What are they called? Fiend Bloods. Are they called that?
Yeah, Slangor Fiend.
Slangor Fiend Bloods. Yeah. I've got a unit built. Can't give them away.
Beasts of Chaos also have a White Dwarf update next issue. Oh, cool. Okay, that could make a difference then. We've already spoke about it with the Legion of Blood. That double drop can really add up to something quite exciting.
Yeah.
Blades of Corn, and these are your boys. You know about these. How do you feel about this stuff?
To be honest, the Mortals have been dead for a while, I think. I don't see Mortal Corn armies anymore. There was a time when they could be competitive. Then you had to start leaning on stuff when I played them competitively, I had Lightning Cannons and Kara's Fate Weaver, and Soul of Faithless and all that stuff. And then then I had Blood. Then they were it was Gore Pilgrims with Bloodthirsters or whatever. Fundamentally, do you care about these points decreases? They're quite aggressive. 20 points on Blood Warriors is not, Blood Warrior unit could be quite good.
That line being affected is a big thing.
Skull Reapers and Wrathmongers going down. They're definitely overcosted. Are they worth having? Probably not. Still,
no. Still,
I don't End of the day, the only Khorne list that I see being good, I think, is Bloodthirster Demons. Bit like when we played against Matt Clark with his Demons of Khorne with Scarbrand. I just don't think the Mortals have enough there. With Archeon losing his synergies with Khorne as well, that was a mortal option, but that's gone. And then I don't. Sure, you get more bodies, but
Andrew Beggs made a very good point. They seem to be incentivizing taking them instead of Slaves to Darkness Coalition. Like, absolutely fair point. And
yeah,
I think them encouraging that makes loads of sense. So
yeah. I mean,
good point, well
you
written.
might find that you've got more play, and what you've got to remember is, we come from a match play point of view. If you played Path to Glory or 1,000 Points or whatever, this could make quite a big difference, particularly the Blood Warrior points.
That's a bit... Yeah.
Because a lot of people run Blood Reavers and don't run Blood Warriors. I always run Blood Warriors because I like them. Were they overpointed? Yes. Going down 20 points, it's a good reduction. Is it enough? Probably not, but it's
Face
fine.
said he saved 85 points with these changes in one of his lists. That's solid.
It's a hero, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
They used to have 80-point heroes. I don't know if they still do, but...
It's already under, so now he's got 100.
A Rafax. There you go.
It's a unit.
That you can't then use with Blood Boil anymore, which was the biggest... I think that was the biggest nerf to Mortal Khorne, was the prayers. Like, when you couldn't use Blood Boil and the invocations, and with the rerolls, multiple... You didn't get... Because you used to be able to do 3 prayers per priest. They're already, like, horrifically overpointed. And you used to hurt yourself quite a lot. But at least you had... When they got into range, then suddenly you unleash 3 blood boils, that's 3d6 mortal wounds. It was like, what on earth was that? And it's like, but you don't have that anymore. And it's like, then the odd chance to get the Rafax off or the Bleeding Icon. You had some little play there. It was all right. It was fine. It wasn't. I don't think it was particularly amazing, but it was all right. Yeah.
Cycles.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see some of the human / beastie things go down, but yeah,
too little, too late. I shouldn't say. That's not a good.
Horror's going up 35 points. That's significant, right?
Yeah, that's the first step in the right direction that Warscroll's had since it was written originally, I think, because they just got better, in my opinion, for how they play in the game. So they're far too good. They're negative on the table. I think raising I'm glad that that's aggressive. I'm really pleased that they plus 35 is a solid amount. They're going up more than 10%. I think is brilliant. So yeah, I'm still not a fan of how they work or what they do on the table and what they bring to the table, but I'm glad that that's happened.
Yeah, I think Andrew makes a good point, and I think you're right that it's the very top stuff, the very, very top stuff that and the very bottom stuff, and it's a little bit and a little bit. It's not really doing much with the fat middle.
I'm gonna grab my Slaanesh book and prep.
Yeah, sure. So the Zangor Enlightened are an interesting one because I think they're the ones that aren't on disc; they're on foot. So I know that there is some other weird thing about you could put them on foot or on disc. I don't know if 20 points is a lot. Like that's a lot of points saved. Are they suddenly going to be really good as a big unit? I think because of the reinforcement restriction, maybe not, but don't know. Like, you might see them, but again, the demons have always been the strength in the Zinch book, so yeah. Horrors being the same points as Blight Kings, yeah, it's a step in the right direction, but will Horrors ever be right? I don't know. So, how's your Slangor Fiendblood army coming, Byron? I know you've gone out and bought 10 boxes today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are going to have to wait until 2023 to see them on the table at the tournament.
I like them.
Well, you like their models?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's where the good points end.
Sexy cows. What's not to like?
Right. Let's weep for our sexy cows. So as I've said, for people who aren't aware, the lifespan of points in Header Knights has gone. They were the best book ever. A new book got written, which felt to me like an antidote to the previous book rather than a book in its own right. They were egregious. Let's face it. Anyone who was playing with them knew how ridiculous they were. There's something was.
I sold mine because I didn't like them. Took it to the ETC, and I was like, "This is dumb. This army." And then I sold them, and then I played Archeon Khorne Pile-In shenanigans just to beat Slaanesh. because I hated it that much. And then the
they're
new book
ridiculous.
come
Yeah,
out, and I was really excited. And then I saw the General's Handbook points and went, okay, they go back in the bin. Then.
a flip flop.
Then I sold them to you, sucker. No.
So, and then I picked them up, under the impression that their points would get fixed, which I don't think has come to pass. So we had Bent book, an antidote book, let's call it that. I don't think it was written with a lot of, huge amount of consideration and independence as a book within its own right. The summoning point stayed very efficient, and the book suffers from some things as a result of that, probably. Then there was a points increase, which no one expected or wanted or was needed. On top of that, and then these points obviously are an adjustment on the current points, which is the ones that have already gone up when they shouldn't have. So I think basically the net result of this is, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to turn down having 10 points extra in my thing because I have some Bliss Barb Archers. This is making all difference to anything if you place the Nesh. Like Theme Bloods.
I think Twin Souls. I think there's a list with Twin Souls, like 10 of them. Like, because we talked about it before, didn't we? And them losing 20 points, you're saving 40 points. That's significant.
Well, they haven't, have they? Because they were 170s. They've lost 5 points.
Yeah, but I mean, from AOS 3 General's Handbook, we talked about them because of... And it was more because other stuff got worse, not because they got better, right? Because getting a 5-up ward is,
The problem... Yeah, the problems with this fall when you start comparing them to other things in the game, very easy to compare our battle line archers to Luminous battle line archers, or our elite infantry to anyone else's elite infantry, and they just don't stand up. You can say
no, I agree.
Ward, they can't use it in consecutive turns.
No, I know that.
I don't think. I mean, Fiend Bloods are just too they feel like they should have 5 wounds or something. They're so bad. They just do nothing. Each of them can do a mortal wound on a 4-up. Every other thing that we've seen like that recently has done it more effectively, either with larger units having each model on a 4-up, or more elite units, which they are pointed, like being Stormcast, having roll 2 dice and on a 4-up, or 1 dice and on a 3-up on the charge, or something like that. So I don't think Fiend Blood it's not enough for Fiend Bloods.
No, of course not.
Can check what points they were. They were 140, so they've gone up by.
They were 140, went to 150, back down to 130, right?
Yeah, it's just that stutter, the 1 step back, 2 steps forward, it still only nets you 1 step forward.
I still think they could have FAQ'd the General's Handbook and removed the points at AOS 3 launch and just said use the points in the back of the book.
In the book. Yeah.
And I think that would have probably done everything to fix the faction in the loosest possible way without you getting a new book. And then you could adjust things which weren't quite right, because things like Hellstriders probably feel a bit cheap for what they are. But then if you just reduce Black Knights by 20 points, are they are they cheap? But is it just because everything else is too expensive, so they become the thing that you think, well, they're not overpriced, so they're cheap? That's not really the right attitude. It's not really the right mentality. I mean, it works in retail.
Rocking Bravely 6.
You can bundle loads of stuff into a battle force and go, well, I'm saving £20, but actually you're not really, because you wouldn't have bought those things. So you're spending £5 more on something that costs literally nothing. That's an old scroll or an old kit. So
I've saved 10 points. A couple of people have mentioned, I've saved 85 over these coin points or whatever.
The biggest issue with Painbringers is they FAQ'd them, so they lost the reroll saves.
Yeah.
And that was
plus 1 save in melee only.
An afterthought, really, because of the issues with rerollable saves in OS 3 with Slaves to Darkness, and then it was like anything with a rerollable save needs to be FAQ'd. But the points had already gone in, and they didn't get the points didn't get adjusted. And we'll get it next time round, but that's a year away, isn't it? And then you've already had, and I think it becomes the victim of the timing. So you get.
It's always been a real.
If your book comes out undercosted in the front half of the year, it kind of doesn't get adjusted for the handbook due to print times. So you get extra time of it being good. And conversely, if your book is a bit overcosted, you get extra time of it being bad. And
Yeah.
a
And then it's got the
formula
double-
increase on
double
every
buff action.
unit because of the increases to things like monsters, heroes, AOS free, and not adjusting the baseline is going to hit you more because
Yeah.
it's a multiplier of a high number. So if you add 10% to a high number, it's a higher number, right? Especially if you start
Yep.
rounding, and if you start rounding in weird ways. So
By
like
5 then,
you
anyway.
then start
Yeah.
getting, well, I'm just over the threshold to go up. I've already gone up more than I probably should have done, and I'm going to add another 2.5 points or 4 points to it because I'm rounding up. Whereas if you fall the other side of it and you round down, that's actually a 10-point swing or 5-point
Yeah.
swing. And then if you have a unit on a unit that you take multiple times, that's a big thing. So
Yeah,
It's-
I mean, like, Keeper Secrets isn't in here. Which I know things like the Great Unclean One have been fixed in the recent book and they've gone up in points and stuff, but she's too expensive. She's too restricted. You're not going to put Demonettes on the table for 150 points a pop. Lol. You know, summon them, bargain. Not going to start them in your army, and they're on the like they're the type of thing you expect to be on the cover of the book. You know, they are.
well, they
they're
were
meant
on
to
the
be
last one.
Yeah.
Now they've put
Well,
pain. Is it a Painbringer now?
yeah.
So maybe
Okay, well.
it's the that's a
prophecy, isn't it?
Painbringer, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, you could knock 60 points off a keeper, and I still don't think it'd be like that would make a difference to lists. You know, you wouldn't feel awful for putting one in then.
I mean, like,
but-
let's be honest. Like, you're in a bad spot, and one of the things, I don't know how much this affects you. Right, I'm going to talk about it because I'm not sure. So there's this nice little update, which is cool. But actually, if you look into the detail, which we're going to do, because that's what we do. So let's have a look at this. So you tell me, you're the Sinesh player. So
Yep.
let me find it. Oh, that's death. We don't want death. Storm, Archon, OBR. It'd probably be easy if I just do that. There we go. Head Knights. Oh, of course, it's Head Knights, not Sinesh. So this bit. Battle trait. Host of Sinesh. Change the second sentence of the rule to all Head Knight units in your army gain the keyword. And you can use the allegiance abilities listed for that host of Sinesh on the pages indicated. So, invaders. Take it for example, right? So
Yep.
I don't know how much this, and we talk about Wrath as well, because in Wrath you need the invaders keyword to get the Lurid Haze one.
Yes.
So
indeed.
as a knock-on effect, if I take Varangard before, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, they would get the Lurid Haze invader keyword because
They
they're
got Lurid Haze.
Sinesh,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, they did. Yeah, they did.
So-
So you could bring them on for the table edges if you wanted.
So you could bring them for the table edge. You could use the command ability. Your trait, which says reroll run rolls for Lurid Haze units within X, would work. None of
Yep.
that works now.
Nope. Where's that note?
Does that make any impact to you
Yes.
how you play? Because you
Yeah,
play
it-
Varangard, don't you? So
Yeah,
That's-
it makes it's really painful.
it's not really clear that I mean, if you look here,
I need
it
to start playing
says.
my army basically.
Well, you're gonna have to start taking Sinesh units, but they're so overcosted. You just play
What,
slaves.
put Demonettes in.
I don't
multiple
know.
keepers?
You could
Lol.
take those twin souls.
Yeah.
They're so sweet now. So it says here, coalition units no longer benefit from allegiance ability. So it kind of says it, but it doesn't because the host
Oh,
rule
well,
was for
because-
your army.
Because it
But
comes
that's
from, and it comes from Wrath. So
yeah.
it's
Well,
hard
it's
to make.
Wrath, and but it's the same with Khorne. All blades of Khorne units, and it's the same with Disciples. So if you've got like Chaos Warriors in I don't know, in like a Khorne faction that has a benefit to mortals, whatever they are, because I only know Reapers of Vengeance. But anyway, one of those, this is all I used to play, one of those factions, they suddenly don't get the keyword. And I know it's a bit fringe, but it does impact, right? So it's like if you take a Demon Prince
Yeah.
of Khorne and you put a Demon Prince of Khorne in a Khorne army in Reapers of Vengeance, he's not a Khorne demon, technically. He's not a Reapers of Vengeance Khorne demon. So, it's kind of, I don't know, like, it's a bit of a weird, I get it, it's a cleaner change, but then it's like it's another kick. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not huge, but I think at this point, probably, as a result of this second fix where you were assuming things were going to get fixed, not fixing anything, I'll probably stop playing the army at this point, which is a real shame, because having waited around for a year for things to get addressed when you assume that it was obvious they needed being addressed anyway.
Well, I said to you, it's going to be the next handbook.
Yeah.
So, until or the next battle tome, whatever's first.
Yeah. Yeah, the army is not getting used until. Yes, we did talk about Kragnos a lot. He's great. But yeah, not to be all doom and gloom on it. Like, it's great that something's got a bit cheaper, but like those points are done off points that were already increased. So as I said a couple of times, it's like we'd gone like one step back. Now we've gone 2 steps forward. We've still only gone 1 step.
I don't think they're aggressive enough.
Big enough step.
Because the percentage-wise decrease, they're not. Like, I would have dropped 20 to 30 points off Bliss Barbs, 30 points off Painbringers, probably 80 points off Fiendbloods. Maybe like 40 points off Twin Souls. I think they're better than Painbringers, but they're already more expensive. So I don't know why Painbringers only go down 15 and Twin Souls 20. Like, I thought they'd be in line.
They've got one range. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Probably.
But there's a damage too.
Higher move value as well.
Higher move, damage 2, better reach, better ability.
But I mean, let's move on. Not to be doom and gloomy, but that's not what our book needed, boys. And it seems insane to me that the demons were not adjusted.
Well, I mean, you could have literally knocked 10% off every war scroll, I think, bar Sigvald and Sinessa, possibly. And Hellstriders.
And the Hellstriders, yeah.
Skaven. Sure. I don't know.
Little tweaks. If you play Pestilence, I guess you'd be happy.
Yeah.
Over at Pestilence Army, that is that's quite a chunk.
Yeah, I mean, if you take play calls, but then I mean, it's the same thing, right? If you have one priest on a furnace and maybe you don't take play clause. I played against a couple Skaven Plague Pestilence armies. They didn't have play clause.
Lucky to gain 50, 60. Yeah, fair.
I mean, like, even if you took 2 play clause and 2 furnaces, you're only saving 70 points.
Yeah, man.
That's fair. Like, and then to be honest, with Skaven, you play mixed Skaven anyway because there's no benefit to playing pure one. It might be good in Nurgle as allies because they're Pestilence, right? So you can coalition them. So maybe a catapults being down 25 might make them attractive for whatever reason.
That's not a bad point.
Yeah.
STDs?
Yeah, so some increases in here. So quite aggressive ones. Chariots, whatever. 5 points. I don't see what the point of that is. War Shrines and Chaos Sorcerer Lord, let's get to it. The most undercosted sorcerer it's been for ages. Definitely needs to go up.
Priest. This is the example that I'm going to draw. Like, if you're telling me that he needs to go up, how did the Skink Priest not need to go up? I know his ability
is a much better
2+
profile, though, isn't he? And it's automatic as ability. The Skink Priest on a free up.
Yeah, but he started 25 points more expensive also. As a percentage.
No, I don't disagree with you. Like, I think the Skink Priest should go up, but I'm one person in a group of 28 people. So.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say? Like, I'm not disagreeing. I think the priest should be 100 points minimum. But it's the same with hags. They never should have been 60, 70 points back in the day. They should be 120 points, just like my slaughter priest was 100 points, 120 points. You read into it what you will. But Chaos War Shrine going up 30 points. I mean, it's quite aggressive. I mean, I know you see them, but are they that good?
More than 10%. approaching 15. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if it's a hang up of the sort of the Marauder spam list with War Shrine and stuff. I don't know. Like, it's fine, but then like the Ogroid Myrmidon and Firmoid Crushers and Gorby's Chariots going down. I would have liked to have seen the Karkadrak come down, because the demonic mount,
lovely model.
like Karkadrak, maybe even the Manticores, are a bit overcosted in my opinion. But I think there's a lot of stuff in the factions you could have reduced and said these all need to come down or go up, but you almost rebalance the entire battle tome, and it's quite a big change to do that for everyone internally. And I don't think that was what they wanted to do with this update. But the choices of what they had touched, I don't know what the decision point was on that. I don't know what the decision to include those war scrolls, like where that come from. So it might be to do with certain lists they've seen that have been popular, or certain things that have
just
done well, or
really
stuff that you just haven't seen at all at events. And like, I don't think I've seen Chaos Chariots, Gorby's Chariots, Crushers, Myrmidons in lists, so that might be where they target those ones. I don't know whether they said let's take the top 5 or the bottom 5, or I don't know. But they're similar sized groupings. I mean, obviously Stormcast one's quite big, but you know, they've got 80 billion scrolls, so I'm not massively surprised. Does it? I don't know. Like, obviously Chaos Sorcerer Lord going up, he's in a lot of competitive lists. The War Shrine going up, features in competitive lists, so that's some hits there. Archeon being changed is a big one, and he's gone up, which I don't necessarily agree with. If you've changed him, why has he gone up 30 points?
If you've got a Lord, Archeon, and a War Shrine, your list just got 80 points more expensive.
Yeah. Gotrek going up 50, thankfully.
Yeah.
I mean,
required.
I think that's back to where he was, wasn't it? Was he 5.35 and went down to 4.20, 4.35? Or...
Yeah, seems like accidental almost that he got lowered when he was so good. So I think that's fine. It won't hugely change the lists he's in. Maybe they have a different battle line or something.
Nagash has gone down 15 points. Let me get him out.
Could put a 0 at the end of that, and you might feel a bit better about it.
He should probably be about 800 points now, in my opinion. But I would say that. So.
Put a 0 at the end, and you're good.
Yeah. Rising Crescendo. Chaos Source is only 20 points cheaper than a Shard Speaker. Seems right.
Yep.
You don't rate the Shard Speaker, though, do you? I like the Shard Speaker.
150 points for Pap.
It's way too easy, Byron. You make my life too easy picking on these things.
I know. It's because you enjoy beating a dead horse.
I do.
I got one leg. It's like, oh, stop it! He's already dead.
No, we must kill it with fire. So
I mean, should we just apply a percentage to Nagash to put in context why that's probably a meaningless change? Like, he costs the most points of anything in the game. Him changing by 15, I don't know what that is as a percentage of.
What, out of 970? Like,
yeah,
I don't know, like, not a lot. Like, someone would tell us. It's like, it's not even like, it's like 1%, 1.5% or something stupid. Forston, question, Nagash ability Supreme Lord of the Undead work with Rally? I would just say yes, because you're bringing units back. So I think you get to re-roll your Rally rolls with him. So yes, I think it does work. Because it's an ability that returns models, so... Not that you've got much in your army to use it on, but yeah.
Nagash's change was 1.5%. Like we've seen some other people who've had literally 10 times more than that. So I don't think anyone doing that, like, he needed more.
It's just such I think it's such a conservative drop. And it's almost like we've changed so much about Nagash, we're almost scared to reduce him too much in case it's too good. But I can't see how, if you've made him worse in every element, how you could think that's a problem.
Thanks to the percentages, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. You know, you've made him make 1,000 points of your army worse, and then you've made him 1.5% cheaper. Like, no, just no. That's not doing anything. Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit mad, isn't it? 1.5 skeleton warriors more in your list because he got way worse does not feel like a fair exchange.
The problem
Or 2 ghouls.
is that the effectiveness of your army has been reduced by way more than 1.5%.
Oh,
Because of the command ability.
Well, it's so you've got 1,000 points of your army, which frequently will be a sixth better, right? And so that sixth as a percentage is whatever it is, like 17 point, 17% or something like that.
Because
yeah, like 1,000 points to your army changed that much. How like it doesn't. If you look at it mathematically, I just don't see how that's where the dust has settled. Like
the hand of dust
discussion should have stopped. Yeah, it has. The discussion should have started with an 8, and it maybe should have continued with some zeros. Given how much he's changed,
like he's lost.
Still nearly the most expensive in the game.
He's lost. So I've got to be really careful because I know it's like you with Sanesh. -1 to wound on all his meaningful attack profiles is massive. Like, it's not like a little change. That is a huge drop. Losing reroll ones to hit is a huge drop. His survivability has gone down. He's lost his 6-up deathless save because he doesn't get the allegiance ability and all the deathless saves baked into that. Yes, he's got a 4-up against mortals, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And in Petrifix, he's lost the ignore rend, and he can't use all-out defense.
No.
And he can't get across the table because he's only movement bloody 9.
9?
Like,
yeah. No, it's not enough at all. Even close. Like, I think the thing that I have difficulties with is, unconservatively altering this and then conservatively altering that. They need to be at parity, right? So if you're going to make something way worse, inarguably, affecting 1,000 points to your army, which could be 5 units of Blood Knights, you just made a 6th worse in both their saves and their ability to damage stuff, which is a huge deal. So you've taken that's not conservative whatsoever, and to then apply a conservative points change, it just, it's illogical at that point, basically.
But why are you even, pardon the French, why are you even fucking with him? Like,
I don't think he needed much of an adjustment anyway.
Really. What was the issue with Nagash?
Well, I personally, my opinion, is that people don't like things feeling indestructible, and this is why.
But he's far from it.
Look at he did with the ignoring rend and stacking and stuff like that.
No, I get that.
I'm not saying it's him.
That's the game.
In the game,
like.
I know. I'm not arguing with. This is why I think other people have done it or would have complained about him. So they're like, people do not like playing against that. And if let's say the tournament gaming audience who know that you can just ignore him and still win on scenario, let's say that constitutes 5% of the audience, and then a small amount of other people are up on their gaming enough to know that it doesn't matter if you can't kill the big guy, even if he is Nagash, you can still win the game. You still end up with a huge amount of people who see that indestructible thing that they run all of their army at and kills them, and then spells something off and hand of dust to another and does 17 arcane bolts to something else. And I think probably it's as a result of being too reactionary to the people that don't spend their lives nerding out on the game. I really like the fact that there's things in the game, like he lowered model counts. Like, you should be encouraging the shit out of that currently, given the state of the game. Same with Kragnos, Archeon, all the big dudes, all the force multipliers. You encouraging people to include things in their armies that literally half its size in terms of model count on the table. Like, please give me more. Like, absolutely give me more. My, Gargants can be a bit egregious, but say what you like, the game's finish in time. You don't feel like I gotcha'd your opponent at any point. You're not beating them around the head with 17 rules. Their war scrolls are just a bit too good.
I mean, that's why I
There's
took
only
Nagash, because I
there's
wanted
only
to
3
finish
of
my
them.
games. Like
Yeah,
I
there's only
didn't want to play like classic OBR mix because I just didn't have enough time in a 2.5 hour round to do
well,
it. But
if you include Nagash and you don't have one of each type of battle line available, it's very difficult to play a list with more than 4 scrolls, maybe even including an endless spell. Probably max at about 6.
well,
So
my list
I
literally
feel
was
that
3 war scrolls and an endless spell. So,
there you go. Exactly.
but
4, including the endless spell.
but even the
So
15 points literally makes no difference. Like, and the
nah,
thing is for me, like the biggest
no.
issue in Nagash was reroll ones on armor saves. That was the issue.
Yeah.
The command ability. She literally could take the command ability off and do nothing else. Like, it's not the same as Archeon because you're not mixing him with all the other factions. Like, they've baked in Nagash into the allegiances of the 2 armies that like Soul Blight, and if you want to come in Feck and Nighthorn, just put a ruling in about Nagash in those factions. Create a rule for that. Don't remove the rule for all the other. And it's like, is it? You need Petrifix in OBR because you lose the ability to all-out defense, so it offsets.
Yeah.
Like
I do. It's very much throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I feel from like it doesn't particularly make sense, and also, you know, if you're going to do like this, basically makes it so I think you're from a competitive standpoint. I don't think you're really going to see him currently now, given these changes. You know, maybe sneak his way to Feck or Nighthorn.
People will play him because they like him. Like people will still play Nagash because they like Nagash.
One of the most
I
lovely
won't play
models
him.
they've ever made. Call us fluff. I wouldn't consider him at this point, and I would have considered him before. So I think that has the hallmarks of, you know, just keep your conservative or not conservative approach at parity when you're adjusting 2 things, being rules and points. Just like if there is an addition changed involved, we can use the Battle Brew example. You know, ultimate baby, reactionary baby out in the bathwater. Addition changed, which made things worse. Stone Skeleton got changed also. Points got changed also, and Battle Brew got fixed. Like one of those would have been fine. 3 or 4 of them added up to a model that you don't see at tournaments for a year, or maybe you see 1 of, and it used to be you'd see 3 of them everywhere, which wasn't too much. It's what the army's based on, big heffalumps. So yeah, I think that's it basically. It just feels like there's no cohesive approach, or you know, it literally feels like some changes were suggested, and here was the points in line with those, and then actually last minute those changes were changed, but the point stayed or something, which is kind of how, you know, the Slanesh book feels, or things like that.
It seems strange that he gets changed every book basically, but like the biggest issue I have with it is like you've buffed Kragnos, and I agree he wasn't very good. But
that's great. I think
right. Nagash was in a good spot. Like if you actually think about it from a game point of view, you could say, yeah, he's got a bit of an MP with the reroll ones. All right, take that away. Is he that bad then? Like I still lost him in a lot of games I played with him in both Soul Blight and in OBR. He still died. He's not that survivable. 16 wins with a 3-up save. Yes, he could be a 2-up. He could ignore 1 rend, but like it doesn't. He's not
quite a few
that
people
good.
Can take 1,000. Well, quite a few people can take 1,000 points of their army, because that's what you have to measure it up against. Quite a few people can take 1,000 points of their army, get a double, and kill Nagash.
Yeah.
Which is what you have to measure it up against. The double does exist in AOS, has to be played around, and it's pretty much the same points value. So if someone can take half their army and kill your half their army, but, you know, they sent you 1 unit at a time piecemeal, I just feel like this is, you know, perhaps the inexperienced gaming crowd having bad games against someone and then writing this feels bad. And I'm not denying that their game felt unenjoyable, but I do think, you know, the moment you listen to a podcast or your opponent says, like, by the way, as the person playing Nagash, if you just ignored him, you could have won that game by turn 2 or something like that. You know, that's the thing. And people have to put in things to deal with elites in the game, because I know we're in Monster Hammer or God Hammer or however people want to put it, but even if we weren't, you still have to be able to deal with big stuff.
But you run the risk of, like, when you play with Nagash, and this is why I don't like him, like, in terms of gaming with him, that's why I've only just painted one, is that you run into the issue with like Legion of First Prince, Be'lakor, you fail a double one charge, they have something that can impactfully kill him, or they have a way to shut him down. It's like it's one model that gets shut down and it's half your army. It's a huge thing. He can't be everywhere. Putting him in the wrong position means him being bogged down or not being a charge or failing a charge. Huge. Anyway, he is where he is. Would I play him now? No.
No.
No, I wouldn't. I'm just being honest about it. I just wouldn't. So I'm not. Would I play him in OBR? No. Would I play OBR at all? Probably not, because of round times at events, not because of the OBR. I don't think the army's bad. I just think you just don't have enough time to play with it.
Yeah. I think there's an okay cavalry army, but
I still think the balance list with Arcan and Petrovix and all that is great, but now the changes to Relentless Discipline from when I took it before to Carnage, and they've changed. But I just don't think the game's long enough, and it plays a 5-turn game, which is the thing I'm worried about with Nurgle. It's a lot easier to play with Nurgle because you've got less models and there's less dice, but I still think you need 5 turns. I don't know. Unfortunately, my opponent that I was meant to be playing tonight and tomorrow, they've both pulled out because of illness and COVID and stuff, and I understand that. So I'm not going to get a game with my Nurgle now. So, not unless I play with myself in my studio, but that's another thing I shouldn't talk about on air. So yeah, I mean, what's the update do? Kragnos becomes exciting. Beastclaw Raiders becomes exciting, and because Kragnos is exciting, you suddenly get excited about how does he work with, Bone Splitters, Gloomspite, Gits, all the other destruction factions. So
you only need less than 2/3
even
Gargants of an army as well.
Even Gargants, because you start thinking, how do I use him with Gargants? Because now he's got the Mighty MX right here, and he's immune to death. You get some of the Gargant rules, and you're like, well, actually, he's no longer feels like a crap Mega Gargant, and he does something that other Megas don't. So Kragnos, big. I really like what they've done there. Some of the points increases I think were needed. I think the increases, the decreases on seldom seen units are just fine, but I don't think it really does anything.
I like the fact that maybe people are considering building and painting up some Black Knights now. I think that's a really nice incidental result of some of this stuff.
I think there are some things that you will go like Black Knights, Mortis Engines, the White Dwarf update coupled with that, and maybe someone alluded to Beasts of Chaos getting an update. Maybe that will help as well. So it might invigorate someone to do an army. Nagash going in Feck and Nighthorn, and the decreases to those armies. Maybe there's a list. You might start looking at those factions. Maybe if you play those factions, if you've got if you're really into Nighthorn, and suddenly you can take Nagash, you're going to dive into your battle tome trying to find this list because you're like, great, I've got a list maybe, but it's, and obviously Marathi and Alariel getting the whole lore opens up some gaming things.
Marathi's even more of a bargain now. She was in every doc list anyway.
Just surprised her points didn't go up, to be honest.
Yeah, someone else commented on that. It might have been Martin, who's just made the comment about the charge rule being icing on the cake for Kragnos. It might have been him that cited that earlier.
It's the charge rule force multiplier with the ogres, because although he doesn't benefit from the allegiance abilities, they benefit from his rule, and they do benefit from the allegiance abilities. So it's almost like
one, maybe not the other.
So it's like, and there might be some stuff with Nagash with his extra healing and his rerolls that suddenly stuff like there's a Flesh Eater recycling army but I just don't think you get enough in the army. I just don't think there's enough.
No, they're in such a low spot. He can't do anything but help them. I think, but
that's it. But then it's fine. I just think. I don't even think Nagash and Soulblight is that bad, but I think there are better lists in Soulblight without him now.
There are now,
and
sure.
I think
going Blood Knights.
OBR, he's just might as well not be in the faction now.
Agreed. Take Arcan and then spend the other 500 points or whatever it is.
I think the chaos changes are, there's a change to horrors.
Warranted.
There's a changes to Archeon not being able to use Zinch. Allegiance abilities, obviously the other allegiance abilities,
Sorcerer
but that's the
Lord
main
points.
one. Sorcerer Lord's gone up, War Shrine's
Yeah.
gone up. Feels like there's quite a lot of hits to them, but then I didn't see the same for like Seraphon, who seem to be winning everything at the
No.
moment. They got a couple of points increases,
Yeah.
but so what?
Yeah. They're going to get like 60 points more expensive in an army that is already probably the most efficient and reliable in the game. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they can stomach
Because
it.
I think like Seraphon are winning like or podiuming at every event at the moment, pretty much. I know some people
they're
tell me
doing
that's
so
not
well.
right.
They've been
whatever, but yeah, they've been
No,
around the
they've
top the
been
whole
amazing.
time since the release, right? So
they've been amazing for forever. I just think it took a little while for people to get armies prepped or for people to get more experience with them. Because
yeah, I don't think they're skillless. Like they're not an army that are like.
No.
And there are Seraphon lists that aren't very good if you play like Jumbo Dinosaur Mash because you like dinosaurs and you run Saurus Cavalry. It's like it's not like super effective, so it probably brings the averages down a bit, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Will we see Pterodon armies? Probably not, even though they got some decreases.
No. No, just take skinks. Just take skinks. The monsters.
You're still just going to take Salamanders and Bastardodons, aren't you? Let's be honest.
What do you think? Stags? But bloody stags are incredible. Like, it feels weird to me that them, as Battle Line in Dracothian's Tale or whatever it is, are still allowed to run rampant. They are so well rounded. But yeah, I guess that's it. Maybe we will see some different Nagash lists surface with, Skeletons getting back up. Rising Crescendo just made a point there. Yeah, I think Salamanders could have been 160, Matt. Pretty easily. The way they benefit from Rally is obviously kind of an accidental abusive mechanic. They're just crazy efficient. Again, it's like the Gargant book. It's not necessarily their war scroll it's not wrong, but the edition changed and now they're bloody good. So they were fine anyway. They just got better.
But I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in the update, but it's not what I would call a balance change. It's not like really addressing the balance.
No.
It's basically made
Kragnos
like attractive for a beastie centaur thing. And some of the lists will lose a couple points, lose a unit or two or an endless spell. Sentinels going up, stuff like that. I think fundamentally points is just not a very good lever to increase the power level of weaker books.
No. So it's what you've got.
But that's what you got. So
a wholesale approach, isn't it? Yeah. Absolutely. I have linked Element Games in the description. I hear they're awesome. If you want to get your Kragnos, you can support us by clicking through there. That would be much appreciated. Or pick up a load of start collectings for, or just get some blood,
get some Black Knights
or whatever it is you're going to do. The new meta, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the Amulet, the Unleash Hell, and the Heroic Recovery are all very good changes, and they do impact Gargants. So, yeah, so I think there's some good changes in there. I mean, as an update, I really like the format. I think it's very clear, it's concise. I do like the disentangling. I know not for what it does to the factions, but I do like the cleaning up of chaos because I've already complained about the how interwoven it was and how complex it is. So I quite like the fact it's being like kind of detangled. I know I'm not saying that as a end power result for those factions, it's probably feels like a kick in the teeth, but further down the road, I think it allows for more creativity and more freedom to do stuff with the rules, with the factions as they get changed and updated than you had in the past.
It sets a good precedent, I think.
You don't have to worry about the impact of 4 things when you change something because it doesn't impact them anymore. So you can kind of go, well, actually, now I don't need to restrain the creativity around the rules, if that makes sense. So, yeah, cool.
Let us know below what you think, guys. Like, it's like I really value the reasonable nature that people have been discussing stuff in the chat. It's awesome. Really nice that you guys have such well considered opinions when you put them across. It's really helpful for us. and fixing our mistakes and stuff. If your army's really benefited loads, or you've got a list and you want to say like, look, this saved 90 points, and that makes this tweak, which I think is significant or whatever. I don't know how many times I've written lists that are 2020 points, and you're like, damn, like that feels overpointed, and it would be just perfect or whatever. So yeah, let us know if your faction's done well or badly out of it, or if you've got a listing question, or if you think we've missed out anything. Always happy to have our mistakes pointed out.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we get some interesting discussion in the comments. Let us know if you've got a list that you think is cool. Obviously, you can vent, but we're not responsible for it, so don't feel like you need to emotionally punch bag at us if you don't like what GW have done, because we're not GW. Yeah. So
guys, I'm playing Slanesh, like take it easy, I'm already on the floor.
like if it was up to me, I would just painted a Nagash. These wouldn't be happening, but it's not up to me. So everyone wants the best for the game, everyone's got a different opinion. These discussions are good for having a discussion about what's good, what's bad, what we can do. At the end of the day, it's only temporary. Like, we know that with Age of Sigmar, the meta changes a lot. New books, new updates, new handbooks, new battle packs, new battle scrolls now, for what they're called, will shift things around. So even if this time you're like, well, nothing I play, I'm not excited about much of this, and it hasn't really done much, you ain't got long to wait for something else to come out, if it's a White Dwarf article, or it's a new handbook, or it's a new battle tome. So, like, everyone, the good thing about Age of Sigmar now, and I guess it's a thing that I'm rambling, but when I played Warhammer back in the day, I remember getting a Tomb King book and waiting 10 years for any change to that book.
7 years was the standard cycle, I believe.
I think Wood Elves was 16 years at one point, or something silly.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're... Yeah. They come on the right side of that. But then, like, some people don't like their army to be super powerful. I know I don't. I don't like my army to be, like, what everyone jumps on who are meta chasers. So, like, I tend to move away from armies if they become really popular, like, because I don't like the stigma that's attached to it. I'll just put it that way. And I can understand the frustration of, like, Lumineth players who get a stigma, but actually, like, they're not bad people, mostly.
Yeah, but they want to play their Stone Guard.
They just want to play
that's real unfair.
Yeah.
That feels awful.
Yeah.
Right?
I would love to, but... Yeah. So I would say that, yes, there's some good stuff in here. So, like, at least it's in a nice format. There's some good changes. I'm sure that Nagash has got some use in the other factions. It's just that I play OBR mostly, so that's why I feel a bit down on it. And Kragnos is a massively cool thing, and I think I do want to delve into the Soulblight, Mortis Engine, Black Knight stuff, because I think there's something there. So, there you go. And I think that...
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, Andrew, you hit the nail on the head there where you say a worst thing as an army can be boring, and that's the problem when you try and balance things too much. It takes all the fun out of an army. So...
Completely. Then you end up with a Bone Splitters book. Although I get Kragnos now.
I think Bone Split is correct. Did they actually reduce them any at all? No, they didn't, did they? No.
No, they're cheap enough already. They did.
Yeah.
The points of that, they're fine.
Yeah.
But Kragnos adds a lot to that, so maybe that'll be a thing. I will be picking up a Kragnos. I'm excited about that aspect. And
I mean, I've got my Beast Claw Raiders, and I basically shelved them because they were just a bad Gargant army. But now painted Kragnos, suddenly I've got a really cool new army to play with. So maybe I'll paint a Kragnos and play BCR while they're hot, it's only paint one model.
Very efficient way to get, whatever it is.
You're going to be out of stock for 3 months now. Everyone's going to order it. So.
We'll see. Element stock's deep, so we'll be all right for a bit. But do get on it while you got time.
Just before Christmas,
subject, guys. I linked. Yeah, completely Christmas project. I linked our objective markers as well, just in the chat. So they are in stock. They are shipping now. Price has
Worldwide.
been reduced because we asked that question a lot. They are shipping worldwide. Price has been reduced because there's less in the pack with the new edition. Please feel free to pick them up. They will have the games. They're super durable. They're not bomb proof, but you know they do fine.
They're pretty good for what they're designed for. You know, if we don't say so ourselves. We have had people say that on our behalf. It's not us blowing our own trumpet, although we will when we get the opportunity, because we do love shilling for ourselves, apparently. Anyway, so thanks everyone for spending the evening with us and talking about Age of Sigmar.
Yeah,
and obviously
much appreciated, guys. You've been awesome.
If you've enjoyed it, hit a like, subscribe. Algorithms, it helps us, helps other people. Tell someone about us, whatever. It helps other people find us. So that's it. So New Year will bring some changes. Yes, Grace, they're not indestructible. So yeah, New Year will. I'm hoping I can get the podcast element rolling again and put a bit more effort into the cast now that the DIY studio project house move will kind of be coming to a finish in mid to end of January. So coming into February, I should have a bit more time. I do want to have a permanent gaming setup in this room, which will be, you can't see it, but over there. And then that would allow me to at least record games, whether we do that live or do proper battle reports, I don't know, but it might be a more condensed format with images or time-lapse video once restrictions permitting of then like people can actually come around and play games would be good. But so watch this space. All right, well, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all again soon.
Thank you very much, guys. You've been awesome. Thank you so much for your input.
Cheers, bye.